Welcome, brave souls, to a journey through Minnesota's darkest waters. Tonight, we explore 25 haunted lakes where the past refuses to stay buried, where whispers ripple across the surface, and spirits of the lost still wander beneath the moonlit waves. Prepare yourself. The shadows are watching. Lake Minnetonka, one of Minnesota's largest and most picturesque lakes, stretches across more than 14,000 acres. Its sprawling waters, dotted with secluded bays and hidden coves. By day, the lake exudes tranquility, its surface reflecting the skies and the surrounding forests in a mirror-like calm. Families picnicked along its shores, boats glide across the water, and the gentle lap of waves against docks soothes the spirit. But after night falls, Lake Minnetonka becomes a different realm, a place where the past refuses to rest, and shadows move silently beneath the surface. For generations, local residents have whispered about the ghostly figure of a woman in a white dress, seen along the shoreline under the cover of darkness. According to legend, she appears on nights when the fog rolls in, her silhouette faint and wavering, as if the lake itself breathes her presence into existence. Those who have encountered her describe an overwhelming feeling of sorrow, as though her eyes plead silently for help. Many who approach the figure report that she vanishes without a trace, leaving only the lingering chill of her passage and the soft echo of footsteps along the sand. Some speculate that she is a spirit bound to the lake, a tragic victim of its depths, who eternally searches for something or someone she lost long ago. Boaters have long shared tales of unseen forces tugging at their vessels when the night is still and the waters are calm. Some report sudden currents forming around their boats, as if invisible hands are pulling them toward the center of the lake. In other cases, passengers recount hearing whispers carried by the wind, voices faint yet distinctly human, calling out names or pleading for help. The source of these sounds is never visible, and even experienced sailors admit to moments of inexplicable fear as the lake seems to watch and react to their every movement. There are stories of boats being inexplicably rocked or of fishing lines snapping with no apparent cause, further hinting at the lake's restless energy. Certain areas of Lake Minnetonka are particularly notorious for paranormal activity. Kayakers and canoers recount feeling an invisible presence following them, gliding silently through the water in tandem with their movements. Some have claimed to glimpse shadowy forms beneath the surface, shapes that shift and vanish when illuminated by lantern light or flashlight beams. These experiences have become so well known among locals that some refuse to venture out on the water after dusk, fearing they will encounter the lake's hidden inhabitants. Historical records suggest that Lake Minnetonka has claimed numerous lives over the decades, adding credence to its haunted reputation. Drownings, boating accidents, and sudden storms have all left their mark on the lake's dark legacy. It is said that some of the spirits bound to the waters are those of sailors and swimmers who perished tragically, unable to escape the lake's grasp. These restless souls are thought to linger near the areas where they were lost, creating the chilling sensations of being watched, tugged, or followed that many report. Even on land, the lake's haunting presence is felt. Walkers along the shore at night sometimes hear soft, untraceable footsteps behind them, as though someone or something is pacing alongside them. The faintest flickers of light appear across the water's surface, often mistaken for lanterns or reflections, only to disappear upon closer inspection. On quiet nights, the wind itself carries what many swear are cries for help, whispered in tones that cannot be attributed to human voices. Some speculate these are echoes of the past, lingering impressions of the lake's tragic history that replay endlessly for anyone willing to listen. Local lore has woven these events into the fabric of community stories, and several families claim generational encounters with the lake spirits. Fishermen speak of lines pulled from empty waters, campers report fleeting glimpses of figures moving through the fog, and even casual visitors recount moments of unexplained dread when venturing near the deepest coves. The lake seems to possess an awareness, a subtle intelligence that interacts with those who approach it, testing courage and curiosity alike. Paranormal investigators who have explored Lake Minnetonka confirmed the eerie accounts with evidence of electromagnetic anomalies and temperature fluctuations. Some have captured faint, fleeting orbs of light in long-exposure photographs taken over the water, while others have recorded audio files containing voices and whispers untraceable to any human source. These findings suggest that the haunting is not merely folklore, but an ongoing phenomenon, a spectral presence that persists alongside the living community. Despite, or perhaps because of its ghostly reputation, Lake Minnetonka continues to draw visitors seeking both its natural beauty and its chilling mysteries. Evening boat tours, moonlit walks, and quiet kayaking trips allow people to experience firsthand the lake's eerie energy. Those who choose to venture into its depths after dark often report a mix of awe and trepidation, a recognition that beauty and terror can coexist in the same serene waters. Whether it is the solitary figure in white pacing the shore, the invisible hands tugging at unsuspecting boats, or the faint whispers that ride the wind, Lake Minnetonka holds its secrets tightly. To this day, the lake stands as both a stunning natural wonder and a repository of Minnesota's darkest tales, where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur, and the past forever echoes across the moonlit waves. White Bear Lake, nestled in the heart of Minnesota, is known for its clear waters and tranquil surroundings. Yet beneath its serene surface lies a history filled with tragedy and spectral lore. For centuries, the lake has been a place of both sustenance and sorrow. The Ojibwe people once regarded the waters with reverence, speaking of spirits that dwelled within, guardians and warnings interwoven into the fabric of the land. Today, those ancient stories are echoed in modern encounters, as locals and visitors alike report strange phenomena that defy explanation. One of the most persistent legends revolves around ghostly figures that appear along the lake's shore at night. Witnesses describe seeing shapes that are faintly human, standing motionless at the water's edge, their features obscured by darkness. Sometimes, these apparitions seem to float slightly above the sand, their presence accompanied by a cold that seeps through clothing and bone. Many who approach report the figures vanishing instantly, leaving only the imprint of a chill in the air and an uneasy sense of being watched. Those who have seen them often speak of a sorrowful energy, as if the spirits are bound to the lake by grief, mourning events long past, yet never forgotten. The waters of White Bear Lake hold their own eerie mysteries. Fishermen and boaters have recounted experiences of rods bending with no catch on the line, as though unseen hands beneath the surface are pulling at them. Boats are sometimes rocked or jostled when the wind is calm, leaving passengers bewildered and anxious. On certain nights, particularly under a full moon, strange lights have been observed flickering below the surface. These orbs move with purpose, darting through the water as if guiding someone or something along a hidden path. Witnesses often describe the lights as ethereal, shimmering with a pale blue glow, too deliberate to be reflections or natural phenomena. Some speculate that these luminous forms are the spirits of those who drowned in the lake, eternally swimming through the depths where their lives were lost. Historical records tell a grim story that may explain the lake's spectral population. White Bear Lake has been the site of numerous drownings over the decades, some due to boating accidents, sudden storms, or misadventures in its deeper waters. It is believed that the souls of these lost individuals remain tethered to the lake, unable or unwilling to move on. Locals recount tales passed down through generations, stories of children pulled unexpectedly underwater, or of solitary swimmers who never return, leaving only the surface to ripple mysteriously in the moonlight. In some accounts, those who linger too long along the shore feel the water tug at their feet, a gentle but insistent reminder of the lake's unseen inhabitants. The phenomena are not limited to the water itself. On foggy nights, observers report hearing distant, muffled voices carrying across the lake, though no one is visible. The sounds are described as whispers, soft cries, or indistinct words that vanish when approached. Some visitors claim to hear footsteps following them along the shoreline, their pace matching one's own, only to stop suddenly when they turn around. Others have sensed an invisible pressure, as if someone or something is brushing past them, a presence that leaves the air heavy and tingling with energy. Fishing trips at White Bear Lake are often colored by these unsettling encounters. Anglers sometimes find their lines bending or their bait tugged by unseen forces, while the calm water appears to boil inexplicably around their boats. Some have reported feeling an intense, almost palpable gaze from beneath the surface, as if the spirits themselves are observing, testing, or warning. Even the most skeptical fishermen admit to moments of unease, acknowledging that the lake carries a presence beyond the natural world. Paranormal investigators have documented some of these occurrences, noting temperature drops, electromagnetic fluctuations, and audio anomalies during nighttime excursions. Some recordings capture faint, unintelligible whispers, while long-exposure photographs reveal shadowy forms near the water's edge or faint lights beneath the surface. These findings suggest that the legends surrounding White Bear Lake may be rooted in more than folklore. The evidence points to lingering spiritual activity that persists across decades. The lake's surroundings also contribute to its haunted atmosphere. Thick trees along the shoreline cast long shadows in the moonlight, and the fog that often rolls across the water enhances the feeling of isolation. On quiet nights, the water seems to hold its breath, disturbed only by the occasional ripple from an unseen presence. Campers and walkers report feeling a presence just beyond their vision, a fleeting shape that disappears when they focus on it. Even the sounds of nature, the lapping of waves or the rustle of leaves are sometimes punctuated by unidentifiable whispers or subtle movements, reminding visitors that they are not alone. Despite its chilling reputation, White Bear Lake continues to attract visitors, drawn by both its beauty and its spectral mysteries. Some seek the thrill of a nighttime walk along the shore, hoping to glimpse the legendary figures in white or to see the mysterious lights beneath the water. Others come to fish, to kayak, or simply to reflect, sensing that the lake carries the weight of countless stories, both tragic and supernatural. For those willing to face the unknown, the lake offers a unique experience, a place where history and the paranormal intertwine, where the living can feel the echoes of the past brushing against their skin, whether it is the ghostly figures at the shore, the mysterious lights beneath the surface, or the whispers carried by the wind. White Bear Lake holds its secrets close, offering only fleeting glimpses to those who dare to venture near. The lake remains a site where the boundary between the living and the dead feels thin, a place of sorrow, mystery, and chilling beauty, where the spirits of the lost may still roam, searching for peace that never comes. Lake of the Isles, nestled in the heart of Minneapolis, is a picturesque retreat by day, its tree-lined paths and shimmering waters offering a peaceful escape from the bustle of city life. The lake, known for its winding shoreline and serene beauty, is a favorite for walkers, joggers, and birdwatchers. But as night descends, especially during the long, cold winters, when the surface freezes over, the lake takes on a more sinister character. Beneath the calm and quiet, there exists a chilling history and a presence that many locals and visitors have come to respect and fear. Winter nights at Lake of the Isles are particularly eerie. The frozen surface, normally a playground for ice skaters and winter sports enthusiasts, becomes a stage for strange and unexplained phenomena. Witnesses have reported seeing shadowy figures moving across the ice, silhouettes that appear solid from a distance but vanish when approached. These apparitions are often fleeting, glimpsed only for a moment, yet their presence leaves a profound sense of unease. Those who have experienced it speak of the figures gliding silently across the ice, their movements deliberate, almost purposeful, as if retracing the final steps of lives tragically lost. In addition to visual sightings, auditory experiences add to the lake's haunting. Visitors have described the sound of footsteps echoing across the frozen expanse, though no one else is in sight. The crunch of ice under weight seems to follow them, lingering unnaturally long, creating the unsettling sensation of being pursued or watched. Some have reported soft, distant wails drifting across the lake, cries of sorrow that rise and fall with the wind. These sounds are often attributed to souls lost in boating accidents decades ago, still trapped in the icy waters or bound to the lake's edge, replaying their final, desperate moments. The lake has a long history of accidents, both on its open water and along its shorelines. In warmer months, boating mishaps claimed lives, and during winter, thin ice has ensnared unsuspecting walkers and skaters. Each tragedy seems to have left an imprint, creating pockets of restless energy that manifest in shadows, sounds, and sudden chills. Residents living near the lake often speak in hushed tones about nights when the air feels heavier, when the quiet is pierced by distant cries or the subtle creaking of ice that no natural movement should produce. Local lore also tells of more specific encounters. People walking the lakeside paths after dark recount seeing fleeting images of figures clothed in period attire, often resembling early 20th century Minnesotans who once frequented the area. Some have described the sensation of being followed by a presence they cannot see, a weight on the shoulders or the brush of something cold against their arm. Others report seeing lights moving beneath the ice, flickers that defy explanation, as though the lake itself is trying to communicate or draw attention to the stories embedded in its history. Paranormal investigators have explored Lake of the Isles on multiple occasions, documenting strange occurrences that lend credibility to the legends. Temperature readings often drop suddenly in areas where sightings are most frequent, even during relatively mild nights. Electromagnetic anomalies have been recorded above the ice, and audio equipment occasionally captures faint, indecipherable voices or low moans that have no identifiable source. Photographs taken with long exposure sometimes reveal shadowy figures in areas where no one is present, lending further weight to accounts of spectral activity. Even during the day, the lake retains an undercurrent of unease. Some visitors report an inexplicable tension, a sense of being watched from the water or the surrounding trees. Birds tend to avoid certain sections of the lake, and the wind seems to carry voices just beyond hearing. The combination of natural beauty and hidden menace makes Lake of the Isles uniquely haunting, a place where the living and the dead exist side by side, separated by only a thin layer of ice or the faint veil of twilight. The stories surrounding Lake of the Isles have been passed down through generations. Parents warn children not to venture too far onto the ice during the dark winter evenings, and some residents refuse to walk the lakeside paths after dusk altogether. Those who do venture out often report an overwhelming sense of isolation. The familiar city sounds muted by the weight of the lake's history and the presence of unseen observers. The eerie calm of the frozen water, punctuated by the occasional, inexplicable footsteps or wail, leaves a lasting impression on those who dare to experience it firsthand. Some accounts suggest that the spirits at Lake of the Isles are not merely tragic remnants but active participants in the environment, interacting with those who venture too close. Boats may shift slightly when no one is aboard. Ice may crack or creak in patterns that seem unnatural, and shadows can appear and disappear at will. The consistent theme in every encounter is a profound sense of being observed, of the lake itself harboring memories too potent to fade, replaying moments of despair, accident, and loss for anyone willing to witness them. Despite its haunting reputation, Lake of the Isles continues to attract visitors, drawn by both its natural charm and its spectral allure. Evening walks, photography, and even ice skating carry an added tension, a recognition that the beauty of the lake is inseparable from its chilling past. Those who have experienced the hauntings often leave with stories to share, passed along to the next generation, ensuring that the spirits of Lake of the Isles remain as present in the modern age as they were decades ago. Whether glimpsed as shadows on ice, heard as whispers carried by the wind, or felt as unseen pressure alongside walkers, Lake of the Isles is a place where the line between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin. Its frozen surface may glisten under the winter sun, but under the moonlight, it becomes a haunting stage where the cries and figures of the past are never far from reach, a chilling reminder of the lake's dark secrets. Lake Harriet, a jewel nestled in the heart of Minneapolis, is renowned for its calm waters and tree-lined walking paths. By day, it draws families, joggers, and musicians alike, offering a serene escape from the city's bustle. But when the sun sets and the park grows quiet, the lake transforms into a place of mystery and unease. Visitors who linger after dark often recount experiences that defy explanation, moments where the ordinary beauty of the lake gives way to a chilling, supernatural presence. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves spectral figures seated on benches along the lakeside paths. Witnesses describe these apparitions as faintly human, their features obscured by shadow or mist. They are often silent, staring intently at the water, yet their presence is palpable, creating a tension that seems to press against the air itself. Some visitors have approached these figures, only to find the benches empty moments later, as though the spirits vanish the instant they are acknowledged. Those who encounter them speak of a heavy sadness emanating from the apparitions, a lingering sorrow that seems tied to events long past. The lake itself carries its own haunting reputation. Many have reported hearing splashes in areas where no boats or swimmers are present. On calm nights, the surface of the water can ripple inexplicably, and some have sworn they see vague shapes gliding beneath the dark surface. Rowers and nighttime kayakers have felt sudden, unseen resistance, as if invisible hands are tugging at their boats. In some cases, the sound of oars cutting through water has been heard from the empty dock, rhythmic and precise, as though someone or something is reenacting an old, forgotten routine. Historical accounts provide some context for these eerie experiences. Lake Harriet has been the site of accidents and drownings throughout the years. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, boating was a common pastime, and the lake's popularity sometimes resulted in tragic mishaps. Stories of young people swept under the water, of rowboats capsizing in sudden storms, have persisted through generations. Some locals believe that the spirits of these lost souls linger, tied to the water where their lives ended, eternally repeating moments of confusion and desperation. In addition to visual and auditory experiences, many visitors report a palpable sensation of being watched or followed along the lakeside trails. Footsteps echo when no one is nearby, and shadows sometimes flicker across the path, vanishing when observers attempt to focus on them. Cold spots are common, localized chills that seem to track individuals as they walk past certain benches or along specific stretches of the shoreline. Even the most skeptical visitors often feel an inexplicable tension in the air, a subtle pressure that warns of the unseen presence around them. Witnesses have also described ghostly interactions with the landscape itself. Leaves may fall from trees despite the absence of wind, and benches can creak as if someone has shifted weight upon them. Some report hearing soft laughter, sighs, or whispers carried across the water, with no discernible source. Others have experienced fleeting glimpses of figures rowing small boats that do not exist, the oars slicing through the air silently, leaving only the echo of their passage. Paranormal investigators who have explored Lake Harriet at night often corroborate these experiences. Temperature drops are frequently recorded in areas associated with sightings, and electromagnetic anomalies appear sporadically along the shore. Audio equipment sometimes captures faint, indecipherable voices, while long-exposure photographs reveal shadowy figures seated on benches or moving along paths where no one is present. These findings suggest that the lake's haunting is not merely folklore, but may involve lingering energy tied to past tragedies. The lake's natural beauty paradoxically enhances the haunting, making the supernatural presence feel even more surreal. Moonlight reflecting off the water, combined with the long shadows of surrounding trees, can create illusions that play on the mind. Yet many experiences persist beyond simple optical tricks. Those who have walked the paths after dark often describe a mixture of awe and fear, recognizing the lake's serene charm while feeling the unmistakable presence of unseen observers. Despite the chilling reports, Lake Harriet continues to attract visitors after sunset. Some come in search of an encounter with the unexplained, while others enjoy the solitude and stillness, unknowingly sharing the space with lingering spirits. Families, couples, and lone walkers alike report that, even when no figures are seen, the air feels charged, the silence pregnant with a history that refuses to be forgotten. The stories surrounding Lake Harriet remind visitors that beauty and tragedy often coexist in the same space. Spectral figures seated on benches, ghostly rowing sounds from empty docks, and mysterious ripples in the water all speak to a past that remains present. The lake, so peaceful by day, transforms at night into a realm where history and the supernatural intermingle, leaving an indelible impression on those who dare to linger after dark. Whether glimpsed as shadowy shapes on benches, heard as splashes and whispers across the water, or felt as an invisible presence brushing past, Lake Harriet is a place where the line between the living and the lost is thin. The lake's serene surface belies the restless souls beneath, forever connected to the shore. The benches, and the quiet, haunting expanse of water. Lake Superior, the largest of the Great Lakes, is a breathtaking expanse of water stretching across the northern border of Minnesota. Its waves crash against rocky shores with relentless power, and its winds whip across the shoreline with a chill that seems to cut to the bone. By day, the Duluth shoreline offers stunning vistas, lighthouses perched on cliffs, and the soothing sound of water meeting land. But by night, in thick rolling fogs, the same waters become a stage for some of the region's most enduring ghost stories. Locals and visitors alike recount chilling experiences that suggest the restless dead of Lake Superior, as history, have never truly left. The Duluth shoreline is infamous for its shipwrecks. Over the centuries, violent storms, sudden squalls, and navigational miscalculations have sent countless vessels to the lake's icy depths. The remains of these ships, and the memories of their lost crews, are said to haunt the beaches and piers. Those walking along the shore in the early morning fog, or even after sunset, often report seeing shadowy silhouettes moving across the piers or along the rocky shoreline. These figures, sometimes glimpsed in the corner of the eye, resemble sailors in period attire, their forms wavering as though caught between worlds. They do not speak, but their presence carries an undeniable weight, a lingering sense of sorrow and unfinished business. In addition to visual phenomena, the Duluth shoreline is known for eerie auditory experiences. Visitors have described hearing faint voices carried on the wind, indistinct at first, then gradually forming the sound of sailors calling to one another, or shouting orders as if battling a storm. Others report the creak of wooden decks and the distant groaning of hulls under pressure, even when no ships are near the shore. Some have heard the unmistakable sound of waves crashing against unseen vessels, followed by silence so profound it sets the nerves on edge. Boaters and fishermen sometimes swear that unseen hands tug at their lines or rocks shift mysteriously beneath their feet along the pier, as if the spirits are still manipulating the physical world. Fog is a particularly important factor in the lake's haunted reputation. Thick, rolling mists can descend suddenly, swallowing the shore and obscuring visibility. Those caught in the fog often report the feeling of being watched, of shadows passing just beyond sight. In some cases, lights have been seen flickering across the water where no ships or lighthouses are present, glowing eerily and then vanishing as if the lake itself is conjuring illusions or memories of vessels long gone. Hikers and joggers on shoreline trails have felt sudden cold drafts, which come without warning and are localized, chilling them to the bone, often when they are nearest to spots associated with historical wrecks. Local lore speaks of specific tragedies that have left a lasting imprint on the area. The storm of 1905, for example, claimed several ships within days, and accounts of survivors describe the water turning black under lightning and wind, swallowing men and vessels alike. Modern-day visitors report that on stormy nights, echoes of that disaster seem to replay themselves. Some people claim to hear the shouts of sailors, the crash of timbers, and the frantic sound of waves, as if reliving the terror of the past. Others report seeing figures on the shoreline, silhouetted against lightning flashes, frozen in fear or anguish. The piers and docks of Duluth, particularly those near old warehouses and shipping yards, are hotspots for supernatural activity. Shadowy figures are said to walk along the planks, disappearing when approached. Many describe these figures as partially transparent, often faintly illuminated by an otherworldly glow, as if trapped between the material world and the lake's dark waters. Some witnesses report that these apparitions appear to be performing routine tasks, adjusting ropes, climbing ladders, or scanning the horizon, mirroring the duties they may have carried out in life. Yet, there is a palpable sense of isolation and melancholy, as if the spirits are endlessly bound to the shoreline, unable to rest. Paranormal investigators have documented a range of anomalies along the Duluth shoreline. Temperature drops, electromagnetic fluctuations, and inexplicable sounds have been recorded near areas associated with historical shipwrecks. Some audio devices capture faint voices or cries that do not belong to the living, and long-exposure photographs occasionally reveal ghostly figures standing along piers or on the beach. These findings support the accounts of locals and tourists, lending credibility to tales of a haunted shoreline where the tragedies of the lake's past persist. Even those who visit during daylight hours sense a peculiar tension. The wind off Lake Superior can carry whispers that seem almost intelligible, and shadows cast by rocks and docks can appear to move against the sun's path. Some boaters describe the lake's surface as unusually reflective, with brief glimpses of figures standing or walking across the water, vanishing the instant they are focused on. The combination of natural beauty and eerie phenomena makes the Duluth shoreline a place where awe and fear coexist in equal measure. The stories surrounding Lake Superior's Duluth shoreline serve as a reminder of the lake's dangerous history and the enduring presence of those lost to its depths. Shadowy sailors walking the piers, the distant crash of waves against unseen vessels, ghostly lights on the water, and chilling fogs all contribute to a haunting atmosphere that has persisted for generations. The shoreline is both a place of recreation and reflection, where the living can witness the lingering memories of the dead. Whether glimpsed as silhouettes on piers, heard in the wind as ghostly cries, or felt as cold drafts brushing against one's skin, Lake Superior's Duluth shoreline remains a place where the boundary between the living and the lost is fragile. The lake's vast waters may appear calm and inviting, but beneath the surface and along the shadowed shoreline rests a realm of spirits eternally bound to the tragedies of the past, calling out to the living to remember their stories. Mille Lacs Lake, stretching across central Minnesota, is a place of immense natural beauty, with sparkling waters, dense forests along its shores, and a reputation for fishing that draws anglers from miles around. Yet beneath its serene surface lies a darker side, a legacy of tragedy and lingering spirits that continues to haunt the lake and those who venture near it after dark. For generations, the waters of Mille Lacs have claimed lives, whether through sudden storms, boating accidents, or drownings, leaving behind a sense of unease that cannot be easily explained. Locals warn that the lake is alive with memory, its surface concealing restless souls who have never fully departed. Swimmers in the summer months have sometimes reported strange sensations that cannot be dismissed as natural. While gliding through the cool waters, a person may feel sudden tugs at their legs, as though unseen hands are pulling them under. These tugs are intermittent, unprovoked, and always disappear when the victim turns to confront them. Some describe a pressure that seems to surround their ankles or calves, a chilling grip that vanishes as soon as they attempt to escape. Stories of these experiences have circulated for decades, with witnesses insisting they are not imagining the phenomenon. Night fishermen along the lake's quiet coves have their own eerie tales. In the stillness of the night, when the water reflects nothing but the moon and stars, many swear they have seen ghostly canoes gliding silently across the water. These apparitions are often described as faint silhouettes, sometimes moving against the wind, or without causing a ripple. Those who encounter them report a sense of being observed, an unsettling awareness that the spirits are aware of their presence. Some say the figures appear to mimic old fishermen, paddling with careful precision as if reenacting their final, doomed trips. Others report that the ghostly canoes drift close enough that the oars lightly brush their boats, sending ripples across the water's surface. The whispers are perhaps the most unnerving aspect of Mille Lacs hauntings. Anglers, campers, and even casual strollers along the lake's edge have heard faint, disembodied voices carrying warnings. Turn back. Do not go further. Danger lies ahead. These whispers are never loud or threatening in tone. yet their clarity and urgency leave a lasting impression. Some believe these are protective spirits, trying to warn the living away from the same treacherous spots where they met their end. Others see it as a more malevolent presence, a subtle lure, drawing people closer to the water's depths. Historical accounts lend context to these spectral encounters. Mille Lacs has a long history of drownings, often attributed to sudden storms or the deceptively strong currents beneath the surface. Native American stories speak of water spirits inhabiting the lake, creatures or guardians who punish those who disrespect the waters. European settlers' records document countless boat accidents and disappearances, many of which remain unresolved. It is from these combined tragedies that the haunting reputation of Mille Lacs Lake emerges, a legacy of lives lost and stories never fully told. In addition to visual and auditory phenomena, visitors sometimes experience physical sensations that defy explanation. Sudden chills can sweep over the skin, localized and intense, leaving a person shivering even on warm summer nights. Some report a sense of weight or pressure on their shoulders or feet, as though invisible hands are making contact, or feeling the lake's energy pressing against them. Boats may rock slightly without wind, lines tangle inexplicably, and lanterns or flashlights flicker at the edge of perception, casting eerie shadows across the water. Witnesses also describe ghostly figures along the shoreline itself. Shadowy forms sometimes appear near trees, docks, or abandoned fishing shacks, only to vanish when approached. These figures are often fleeting, glimpsed in the corner of one's vision, and some report that they move in ways that seem unnatural, sliding across the ground or floating just above it. The atmosphere along the shore becomes heavier at night, a tension in the air that warns of the lake's darker history. Paranormal investigators who have explored Mille Lacs Lake at night have corroborated many of these reports. Temperature drops, electromagnetic spikes, and unexplained sounds have all been documented along the water's edge. Audio devices sometimes pick up faint, whispering voices or the distant sound of paddles dipping into water. Even when no human activity is occurring, such findings suggest that the lake's haunting is more than just folklore, and that the spirits of those lost to its waters may indeed linger. Despite its natural beauty and popularity, Mille Lacs Lake remains a place where the living are constantly reminded of the dead. Swimmers, fishermen, and nighttime wanderers alike report being tugged, watched, or guided by invisible hands. Ghostly canoes drift silently across the waters, and whispers carry warnings that chill the spine. Even during the day, there is a sense that the lake remembers its tragedies, holding on to the souls who have vanished beneath its surface. The haunting of Mille Lacs Lake serves as a chilling reminder that beauty can conceal danger, and that tragedy can leave a lingering imprint long after life is lost. The spectral canoes, invisible hands, and whispered warnings are all part of a living memory embedded in the waters. A legacy that continues to haunt anyone daring enough to approach the shoreline at night. The lake's calm appearance masks the restless spirits beneath, eternally bound to its depths and forever echoing the stories of those who never returned. Spirit Lake in Jackson County carries a name that feels more like a warning than a description. Surrounded by quiet woods and rolling fields, the lake looks calm during the day, its surface shimmering under the sun like any other Minnesota lake. Yet, as dusk falls and mist begins to creep over the water, the atmosphere changes. The air grows colder, sounds become sharper, and a sense of unseen eyes watching from the shadows settles over anyone who lingers too long. Local legends trace the hauntings of Spirit Lake back generations. One of the most chilling stories tells of children who drowned in the lake during the 19th century. Their deaths were accidental, the result of a sudden storm that capsized a boat carrying a group of families. Though the bodies were recovered, many believe the souls of those young victims never left the water's edge. To this day, fishermen and late-night campers claim to see the shapes of small figures darting along the shoreline, vanishing the instant they are approached. On misty nights, these apparitions appear most clearly. Witnesses describe seeing children running, their outlines blurred by fog, their laughter faint but distinct. At first it may sound playful, but the sound carries a hollow quality, like laughter that echoes from another time. Those who have heard it often speak of a creeping dread that overtakes them, the realization that what they are hearing cannot possibly come from the living. Some even report the eerie sensation of being lured closer to the water by these sounds, as though the spirits want company in their eternal wandering. Fishermen, in particular, tell unsettling stories. It is not uncommon for them to experience sudden drops in temperature while sitting in their boats, even on warm summer nights. The shift can be so sharp that their breath becomes visible in the air, and the lake's surface seems to ripple without wind. But frayed ends, as though unseen hands beneath the water had torn it away. A few even say their boats rocked violently, as if something beneath the surface had pushed against them, though no fish or debris was visible. Campers on the banks have their own tales. Many describe waking in the middle of the night to the sound of children as footsteps circling their tents. Sometimes, soft giggles drift through the air, fading just as suddenly as they began. Dogs brought along on camping trips often grow restless and bark toward the lake, their ears pricked at things their owners cannot see. On rare occasions, visitors have reported glimpses of pale faces peering through the mist from just beyond the tree-lined faces that vanish when approached, adding to the unease. Spirit Lake is known for pockets of unnatural fog that appear without warning. Even when the sky is clear, banks of mist can roll across the water, obscuring vision and swallowing sound. Within this fog, the disembodied laughter grows louder, sometimes joined by what sounds like faint crying. Those who have been caught in the mist describe a disorienting effect, as if the lake shifts around them, stretching and pulling, leaving them unsure of where they are until the fog lifts again. Despite its sinister reputation, Spirit Lake continues to draw curious visitors. Some come for the fishing, others for the thrill of testing their courage against the lake's chilling legends. A few paranormal investigators have attempted to record the phenomena, capturing unexplained voices and childlike giggles on their equipment. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the stories are consistent enough, repeated over decades, to give the place a reputation that cannot be ignored. Spirit Lake remains a paradox, a tranquil body of water by day, yet by night a stage for something far darker. The laughter of drowned children, the sudden cold, and the fleeting figures running through the mist create an atmosphere that is equal parts sorrowful and terrifying. For those who visit after dark, Spirit Lake is more than a destination. It is an encounter with the past that refuses to rest, a reminder that not all spirits are bound to silence. Leech Lake, sprawling across northern Minnesota, is a vast expanse of water that has long captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike. Its seemingly endless surface, dotted with small islands and surrounded by dense forests, exudes a natural beauty that draws boaters, anglers, and explorers. Yet beneath its calm exterior lies a sinister reputation, one steeped in tragedy, mystery, and supernatural phenomena. Stories of drownings, unexplained disappearances, and eerie sightings have circulated for generations, giving Leech Lake a status as one of the most haunted bodies of water in the state. For those who venture onto the lake, the first signs of the haunting often appear subtly. Experienced boaters speak of feeling an inexplicable pressure on the water, a sense that something is moving alongside them, just below the surface. Shadows are frequently reported, fleeting shapes that seem to follow the movements of the vessel. These are not the normal reflections of trees or clouds. Witnesses describe forms that move independently, sometimes darting beneath the hull or lingering at the edges of vision before disappearing. The sensation of being watched is nearly universal, leaving a lingering unease that even seasoned fishermen cannot easily shake. Spectral lights are another hallmark of Leech Lake's eerie reputation. On quiet nights, especially during periods of fog or overcast skies, faint glows can be seen beneath the water. Some describe these lights as soft and pulsating, resembling lanterns held by invisible figures, while others say they dart rapidly, almost as though entities are swimming or gliding through the depths. Attempts to investigate often prove futile. The lights vanish as observers approach, leaving no evidence behind except a sense of disorientation and heightened fear. The fog over Leech Lake is itself a character in the haunting. On moonless nights, a thick, swirling mist can arise from the water, moving in ways that defy natural currents. Witnesses report that the fog seems almost sentient, shifting around boats and individuals, pulsing and closing in as though alive. Visibility can drop to near zero within moments, and many who have encountered it describe the sensation of being drawn toward certain areas, as if invisible forces are guiding them deeper into the lake. The combination of fog, darkness, and spectral lights creates a disorienting, otherworldly environment that amplifies the fear of the unknown. Drownings and disappearances throughout Leech Lake's history have likely contributed to the paranormal reports. Records indicate countless incidents, many involving children, inexperienced swimmers, and boaters caught in sudden storms. Some accounts remain unresolved, with individuals vanishing without a trace. Locals speculate that these tragedies have left behind lingering spirits, restless and bound to the lake. Folklore suggests that the waters themselves are aware, carrying the memories of those lost and occasionally interacting with the living in subtle, chilling ways. Fishermen often recount equipment behaving strangely when the lake is quiet. Rods bend or jerk without contact, lines tangle mysteriously, and lures disappear or float away as if tugged by unseen hands. Canoeists and kayakers have described small splashes near their vessels when no one else is around, or ripples that move in opposing directions to the natural flow of water. Even experienced navigators are sometimes overwhelmed by these phenomena, noting that the lake seems to have a life and will of its own, conscious of intruders on its surface. Shadowy figures along the shoreline further amplify the sense of haunting. Observers often glimpse indistinct silhouettes moving among the trees, sometimes appearing to watch from a distance before vanishing entirely. These figures rarely take solid form. They flicker in and out of existence, glimpsed only in peripheral vision. Campers and lakeside dwellers have reported hearing footsteps on empty docks, or the sound of children laughing faintly across the water, echoing in ways that defy logic. Some interpret these figures as protective spirits, warning visitors away from dangerous areas, while others fear they are malevolent, drawn by curiosity or mischief. Paranormal investigations at Leech Lake have documented a variety of unusual phenomena. Sudden drops in temperature, unexplained electromagnetic spikes, and unusual sounds have all been recorded in and around the lake. Audio devices often pick up faint voices, whispers, or distant calls that cannot be explained by natural sources. Photographs occasionally capture faint, indistinct forms in the fog or along the shoreline, corroborating eyewitness accounts. These findings lend credence to the tales of haunting, suggesting that Leech Lake is not just a scenic retreat, but a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin. Despite its serene appearance during the day, the lake carries an oppressive energy at night. Boaters describe a weight in the air, an almost palpable sense of being observed. Even those who do not believe in ghosts admit to feeling a profound unease when navigating the lake's fog-shrouded waters. The combination of shadowy forms, spectral lights, mysterious tugging sensations, and historical tragedies creates a layered and persistent haunting that few dare to confront. Leech Lake remains a place where beauty and terror coexist. Its clear waters, sprawling islands, and quiet coves draw the living. Yet beneath that tranquil surface lurks a history of tragedy and the restless spirits of those who never returned. For anyone daring enough to venture out on a moonless night, the lake offers an unforgettable experience. The feeling of being watched by unseen eyes, the brush of icy, invisible hands, and the certainty that some mysteries of Leech Lake will remain forever submerged. Lake Bemidji, nestled in northern Minnesota, is a lake renowned for its natural beauty and tranquil surroundings. Yet it holds a haunting reputation that continues to unsettle visitors. Stretching across a wide expanse of forested shoreline, the lake has long been associated with local legends. Most notably, the story of a fisherman who vanished during a violent storm decades ago. According to lore, his restless spirit still lingers, tied to the waters he once navigated. and those who approach the lake after dusk sometimes encounter chilling signs of his presence. Witnesses often report seeing a lone figure standing along the shoreline when the morning mist clings low to the water. At first glance, the silhouette appears to be a man, clothed in period fishing attire, staring silently across the lake. Some describe feeling a pull toward him, a sense that the spirit is attempting to communicate, yet the figure remains eerily motionless. When approached, the apparition vanishes, leaving behind only a faint ripple across the water or the lingering scent of wet earth and fish. Locals warn that this fisherman is not merely a ghost but a sentinel of sorts, bound to the lake and the tragic events that claimed his life. Boaters on Lake Bemidji also experience unsettling phenomena. During calm evenings or fog-laden mornings, many report hearing the sound of oars slicing through water, accompanied by the faint creaking of a boat that seems entirely invisible. The sounds often come from areas where no craft is present, and attempts to locate the source are invariably unsuccessful. Some visitors recount the sensation of being gently nudged by unseen hands, as if the fisherman is guiding them or warning them away from hidden shoals and submerged hazards. In these moments, the lake itself seems alive, a silent entity channeling the sorrow of the past through subtle, spectral movements. Reflections on the lake's surface contribute to its eerie atmosphere. Several witnesses claim to have seen figures mirrored in the water that do not correspond to anyone on the shore or in a boat. Sometimes these images are fleeting, fading like mist, while other times they linger, creating a chilling impression of being watched by someone unseen. Photographs taken along the water's edge occasionally capture faint, indistinct shapes, supporting the accounts of those who have felt the presence of the fisherman's spirit. Even in broad daylight, the reflections appear unnatural, bending and shifting as if the lake itself is reminding visitors of its hidden, spectral secrets. Local storytellers recount additional encounters that suggest the ghost is not entirely stationary. Hikers and campers along Lake Bemidji's edges have reported hearing the soft slap of water against a boat or the rustle of oars in the darkness, always without an identifiable source. Some describe seeing a faint lantern glow moving across the misty waters, bobbing in rhythm with imaginary rowing, only for it to vanish when they attempt to approach. Others have felt an icy chill, sometimes localized to a single spot, as though the spirit itself radiates an otherworldly presence that cannot be touched but is undeniably felt. The fisherman's story is intertwined with the lake's historical tragedies. Accounts from decades ago detail sudden storms that claimed lives, particularly those of fishermen and small boaters who ventured onto Lake Bemidji unprepared. The storm that claimed the fisherman is described as sudden and violent, with winds and waves that rose far higher than anticipated. The vessel disappeared without a trace, leaving only an empty shoreline and the memory of the man who loved the lake too much to leave it. Over the years, these tragic events have woven into the local folklore, creating a narrative in which the spirit continues to interact with the living, maintaining a silent vigilance over the waters. Visitors also describe a palpable emotional weight near the shoreline. Even in the absence of apparitions or sounds, there is often a sense of melancholy, a heaviness that is difficult to articulate but impossible to ignore. Campers and hikers report that the air feels thicker, almost charged with lingering sorrow. Dogs may growl at empty patches of trees, and birds sometimes scatter without clear cause. The lake, it seems, remembers its tragedies and manifests them in subtle, often terrifying ways, ensuring that those who enter its domain are never fully at ease. Some interpretations of the haunting suggest the fisherman's spirit is protective rather than malevolent. Others, however, view the ghost as a mournful presence, trapped between worlds by the tragedy of his death and the natural pull of the lake he cherished. Regardless of intent, the experiences of those who visit Lake Bemidji after dark consistently point to a supernatural presence that is deeply intertwined with the lake's history. Paranormal enthusiasts who investigate Lake Bemidji report a range of phenomena. EMF readings sometimes spike near the shoreline, and audio recordings capture faint creaking, or splashes, or whispers in low tones. Photographs occasionally reveal small, shadowy figures in or near the water, lending credence to eyewitness accounts. Despite modern advancements in boating safety and weather prediction, the ghostly legacy of the fisherman remains, reminding visitors that the lake holds memories that transcend human understanding, even under a full moon. When the waters of Lake Bemidji appear tranquil and inviting, the haunting persists. Rowing sounds from empty boats, reflections of unseen figures, and the solitary silhouette on the misty shore ensure that the past is never truly gone. Those who venture out after dusk experience an atmosphere thick with tension and memory, a place where beauty and sorrow intermingle, and where the restless spirit of the fisherman continues to walk the misty edges of the lake. Lake Itasca, cradled in the northern Minnesota wilderness, is celebrated as the headwaters of the mighty Mississippi River, a serene and picturesque sight drawing hikers, campers, and nature enthusiasts from across the country. Its crystal-clear waters and surrounding forests create an atmosphere of peace by day. But as dusk falls, the tranquility gives way to a sense of unease, a lingering chill that seems to seep from the very earth. Locals and visitors alike have whispered of strange occurrences, tales passed down over generations, warning that Lake Itasca is not merely a source of water, but a place where the boundary between the living and the restless dead grows thin. The most common reports begin with hikers and campers along the trails that weave through the dense pine and hardwood forests surrounding the lake. Many have spoken of sudden, inexplicable sounds, footsteps crunching on leaf litter when no one else is present, or the faint echo of voices calling out names that are unfamiliar. These disembodied sounds often appear to follow hikers as they move, coming from behind dense trees or from mist-laden clearings. Some have described the cold presence brushing past their arms or legs, an invisible hand urging them to turn around. Yet when they do, there is nothing but the rustle of the wind through branches. Swimmers in Lake Itasca have experienced the water itself acting unnaturally. Several accounts describe a tugging sensation from below, as if unseen hands are grasping at their ankles or legs. The lake's waters are often calm, yet these sudden pulls seem deliberate, occurring in areas where no natural currents or submerged hazards exist. Panic sometimes ensues, as the feeling of being dragged into the cold depths is accompanied by a heightened sense of dread, an instinctive fear that something unseen is determined to pull the living into the lake's hidden reaches. Boaters and canoeists have similarly reported oars becoming heavy as if caught in invisible currents, or the sudden swaying of vessels with no wind or wave present. Lake Itasca's haunting is not limited to the water. Along the shoreline, campers have recounted seeing fleeting silhouettes that vanish when approached. Some describe ghostly figures standing at the water's edge, gazing silently toward the forest, only to vanish into thin air when anyone tries to draw closer. Others have witnessed ethereal lights flickering along the far shore during moonless nights, giving the impression of lanterns carried by unseen wanderers. These lights often appear in areas where historic tragedies occurred, leading some to speculate that the spirits of those lost long ago continue to patrol the lake and its surrounding trails. The lake's dark reputation is reinforced by the history of accidents in the region. Over the decades, hikers have been lost along the dense trails, swimmers have drowned in sudden currents, and campers have vanished without explanation. Native American legends speak of spirits inhabiting the waters, guardians or perhaps restless souls, warning travelers to respect the lake's power. Modern reports often echo these tales, with visitors feeling watched, warned, or guided by unseen forces, suggesting that the supernatural presence has endured for centuries. Visitors often report an oppressive atmosphere after sunset. The air seems heavier, the woods quieter, yet somehow filled with distant echoes. Animals behave strangely in these moments. Birds fall silent, and dogs growl toward empty spaces. Shadows appear to flicker unnaturally across trails, and the lake's surface can shimmer with light reflections that do not correspond to the sun or moon. Even those skeptical of the paranormal admit to a creeping sense of unease that cannot easily be explained by natural surroundings alone. Some witnesses describe hearing soft cries over the water, cries that do not carry the pitch or tone of any known bird or animal. At times, these sounds resemble calls of human distress, rising and fading like echoes in a vast hall. Swimmers and campers alike report the sensation of eyes watching them, often felt in peripheral vision, accompanied by goosebumps and a chill that seems to emanate from the lake itself. Attempts to capture these occurrences on camera or audio equipment sometimes produce faint, unidentifiable shapes or low-frequency sounds, adding a layer of credibility to the haunting tales. Paranormal investigators drawn to Lake Itasca have documented similar phenomena: sudden drops in temperature near certain parts of the shoreline, unexplained electromagnetic readings, and fleeting shadow forms captured on night vision cameras. Audio recordings occasionally reveal whispers and distant footsteps that cannot be attributed to human activity. Many of these investigators conclude that the haunting is tied to both the lake as historical tragedies and the natural energy of the headwaters, a combination that leaves visitors feeling exposed to something beyond their understanding. Even the trails leading to the lake are said to hold residual energy. Hikers report that the further they go from the main parking areas and boardwalks, the more tangible the presence becomes. Whispers grow louder, and the sensation of being followed intensifies. Some swear they see silhouettes moving between the trees, often in old-fashioned attire, as if the forest itself is replaying moments from a past century. Campers sometimes awaken intense to the sound of faint splashing or the impression of a figure standing silently beside them, vanishing when the lights flick on. Lake Itasca remains a place where natural beauty and supernatural mystery collide. By day, the waters glint under the sun, and the surrounding forest exudes peace. By night, however, hikers, campers, and swimmers find themselves in a world where whispers carry, shadows move, and unseen hands tug at the living. Whether protective, vengeful, or merely trapped in the eternal flow of the headwaters, the spirits of Lake Itasca continue to make their presence known, a chilling reminder that even the source of America's greatest river holds secrets best approached with caution. Cedar Lake, nestled within the urban landscape of Minneapolis, presents a serene and picturesque setting by day, with its tree-lined shores and gently rippling waters, inviting joggers, kayakers, and families seeking an escape from city life. Yet beneath this calm exterior lies a darker side, a presence that many who venture near after sunset have felt but cannot fully explain. The lake's history is marked by drownings and tragic accidents, and over the years, tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena have accumulated, leaving Cedar Lake with a reputation for being haunted by spirits of the past. Those who explore the lake after dark often report eerie experiences. One of the most common accounts involves shadowy figures seen standing silently in the shallows, their forms barely visible against the reflection of the moon on the water. These apparitions appear motionless at first, almost as if frozen in time. Yet they exude an undeniable sense of awareness, as though observing every movement of the living. When approached, the figures vanish, leaving only the faint ripple of water and the chilling knowledge that they were never quite alone on the shore. Kayakers and small boaters have shared unsettling experiences as well. Many describe sudden currents or subtle shifts in the water that seem impossible given the lake's size and calm conditions. Paddles occasionally become difficult to maneuver, as if invisible hands are guiding or resisting the movement of the boat. Some have felt a distinct tug at their vessels, as if something beneath the surface is intent on drawing them into the depths. These encounters often leave even the most experienced boaters unnerved, hesitant to return after nightfall, and wary of the lake's unseen forces. Whispers are another hallmark of Cedar Lake's haunted reputation. Visitors walking along the shoreline at night often hear soft voices calling their names or murmuring warnings that cannot be traced to any living source. Sometimes the whispers seem to drift from the water itself, carrying across the quiet surface in a way that makes the hairs on the back of the neck stand on end. Other times, the sounds appear to emanate from the trees lining the lake, as though the forest is alive with the echoes of past tragedies. No matter the source, these disembodied voices leave an impression that lingers long after the visitor has departed. The lake's tragic history lends context to these ghostly phenomena, Over the years, Cedar Lake has claimed numerous lives through accidental drownings, particularly in times when swimming areas were poorly marked or when storms appeared suddenly. Each incident left a residue of fear and sorrow that locals believe may contribute to the spectral activity. Some argue that the spirits of those lost remain tied to the water, wandering along the shorelines and warning the living to respect the lake's power. Others speculate that these entities are not merely present but are replaying the moments of their final struggles, endlessly trapped in the liminal space between life and death. Even along the more frequented paths, hikers and nighttime strollers report sensations of being watched. Cold drafts appear inexplicably in certain areas, often concentrated near sections of the shoreline where accidents were historically most common. Some pedestrians feel invisible touches brushing against their arms or shoulders, prompting quick glances that reveal nothing. Dogs brought on evening walks sometimes growl or bark at unseen presences, and birds frequently take flight for no apparent reason. These subtle signs suggest that the lake itself holds a consciousness, or at the very least, retains the energy of those who met untimely ends there. Shadows that appear larger than life, faint, indistinct shapes, or reflections that do not correspond with any visible object in the frame are frequently reported by amateur ghost hunters and casual visitors alike. Audio recordings sometimes capture faint whispers or the sound of footsteps in shallow water, even when the area was known to be empty. These occurrences provide tantalizing evidence for believers, and even skeptics are forced to admit that something unusual permeates the environment after dark. Kayakers report another unsettling phenomenon: sudden splashes or ripples on the water without wind or other boats nearby. On several occasions, multiple witnesses describe seeing ghostly silhouettes moving just beneath the surface, darting in and out of view, vanishing when the observer tries to focus. Some interpret these movements as the spirits of those who drowned, eternally bound to the lake, while others theorize the energy may be drawn from the many tragic events that have taken place along Cedar Lake over the decades. Nighttime visitors also recount an overwhelming sense of isolation and tension, as if the urban environment that surrounds the lake is stripped away, leaving only the water, the shadows, and the unseen watchers. Even the most mundane strolls along the shoreline become tense exercises in vigilance, with every rustle of leaves or gentle splash of water potentially signaling the presence of a restless spirit. The feeling of being observed persists, often lingering long after leaving the area, suggesting that Cedar Lake's spectral presence follows those who venture too close. Whether one believes in spirits or not, Cedar Lake's combination of history, tragic events, and consistent eyewitness reports has established it as one of Minneapolis's most haunted bodies of water. The lake's calm beauty by day masks a dark and enduring presence, where ghostly figures, phantom currents, and whispering voices continue to remind visitors that the past is never truly gone. Those who venture there after sunset encounter a place where reality blurs, and the spirits of the drowned remain as silent guardians or perhaps restless watchers along the moonlit shore. Whitefish Lake, hidden among the dense forests of Minnesota, carries a reputation that unsettles even the most seasoned outdoorsmen. To many, its glassy waters and wooded surroundings appear peaceful, a picture of natural beauty framed by towering pines and quiet trails. But for those who know its history, the lake is less a retreat than a place where the living and the dead converge. Stories of unexplained disappearances, strange phenomena, and ghostly encounters have accumulated over generations, weaving Whitefish Lake into a chilling tapestry of fear and mystery. The lake's most notorious legends center around those who have vanished without explanation. Hikers traversing the surrounding forest trails speak of sudden shifts in the atmosphere and abrupt stillness in the air, followed by icy winds that seem to cut through clothing and skin. These winds often precede fleeting glimpses of shadows that dart between trees, too swift and too shapeless to be mistaken for wildlife. Many hikers describe the sensation of being followed, hearing twigs snap and leaves rustle just behind them, only to find the path empty when they turn. Some never return at all, their disappearance later attributed to the lake's dark reputation. Night fishermen tell stories just as unnerving. The surface of Whitefish Lake often behaves in ways that defy reason. Fishermen anchored in still waters report phantom splashes, as though large objects are plunging into the depths nearby. When light is shown toward the disturbance, nothing is visible. Other times, soft ripples spread across the lake in perfectly calm conditions, radiating outward from an unseen source in the middle of the water. These ripples seem to circle boats, giving the eerie impression that something unseen is swimming beneath and watching with intent. One of the most chilling details, repeated in countless accounts, is the sound of distant voices drifting across the lake. These voices do not belong to any recognizable language, nor do they carry the cadence of ordinary conversation. Instead, they sound like fragment-stretched syllables, warped tones, and faint cries that echo over the water and fade before anyone can locate their source. Fishermen describe lowering their rods and sitting frozen, listening as the ghostly calls surround them from multiple directions. To some, the voices sound like warnings, urging the living to leave before it is too late. To others, they are lures, enticing listeners to follow their source into the water's embrace. The disappearances at Whitefish Lake are what lend these accounts a darker context. Throughout the decades, people have gone missing in and around the area. Swimmers have slipped beneath the surface without resurfacing, their bodies recovered days later in places far from where they entered. Hikers have been reported lost, only for search parties to discover belongings neatly arranged at the water's edge, as though the individuals walked willingly into the lake. Even boats have been found adrift, their occupants gone, with fishing lines cast and gear still neatly stored, as if the people vanished in an instant. Each case adds fuel to the belief that the lake itself is a hungry force, pulling victims into its depths. Some locals believe the origin of these hauntings lies in the area's earliest history. Long before modern settlers, indigenous people told stories of spirits inhabiting lakes and forests. According to legend, Whitefish Lake was a place where the boundary between the natural and spiritual worlds was thin. Water spirits were said to dwell within, demanding respect and sometimes vengeance when disturbed. Whether these spirits were guardians or predators is debated, but their presence was treated with caution. Many attribute today's ghostly voices and unexplained events to these same entities, warning that the lake was never meant to be disturbed by human activity. Accounts from campers and travelers deepen the sense of unease. On clear nights, some have reported flickering lights moving just above the water's surface, resembling lanterns bobbing in the distance. Approaching these lights leads only to darkness, as they vanish without trace the moment one draws close. Others describe waking to find their camp unusually cold, frost forming on tent fabric even in warmer months, accompanied by the sound of footsteps circling their site. These campers often feel watched, as though dozens of unseen eyes are fixed upon them from the treeline or the lake itself. Even seasoned outdoorsmen admit that Whitefish Lake resists explanation. Some skeptics argue that sudden weather changes and natural acoustics create illusions of sound and sensation, while the dense forests can disorient hikers, causing them to misinterpret shadows. Yet the consistency of the story's phantom splashes, cold winds, voices on the water makes dismissing them difficult. The lake's reputation endures not because of isolated tales, but because nearly everyone who dares linger after dark comes away with a story of their own. One particularly unsettling account involves a group of night fishermen who anchored near the center of the lake. They reported hearing a splash so close that their boat rocked, followed by a child's laughter drifting across the water. Shining their lanterns revealed nothing. Yet moments later, ripples circled their boat as if something large swam beneath. The men abandoned their spot and returned to shore, shaken and unwilling to return. Days later, they learned of a child who had drowned in the lake decades earlier, not far from where they had anchored. Stories like these blur the line between folklore and lived experience. Whether fueled by tragedy, natural forces, or genuine supernatural presences, Whitefish Lake refuses to release its grip on those who visit. The air grows colder, the voices grow louder, and the shadows grow bolder the longer one lingers. For some, These are harmless glimpses of the unknown. For others, they are warnings ignored until it is too late. Today, Whitefish Lake stands as both a destination for recreation and a site of whispered warnings. By daylight, it is a tranquil place for fishing and hiking. By night, it transforms into something else, entirely a stage, where spirits speak through winds and waters, and where the line between the living and the lost becomes perilously thin. Those who approach the lake after dark often return with a chilling certainty. Whitefish Lake does not merely hold water and forest, but secrets, voices, and perhaps the restless souls of those it has claimed. Round Lake, nestled quietly in Minnesota's wooded countryside, appears serene at first glance. Its surface often reflects the sky in perfect clarity, giving the impression of a peaceful, untouched sanctuary. Families picnic along its banks during the day, fishermen cast their lines at dawn, and campers set up tents nearby to enjoy its natural beauty. Yet beneath its calm surface lies a story that has haunted locals for generations, a tragedy that reshaped the lake's legacy forever. Round Lake is not just a body of water. It is a place where echoes of sorrow and spectral presences linger, turning leisure into unease once night falls. The most enduring story of Round Lake traces back to a family who drowned within its depths decades ago. Accounts vary slightly, but the core of the tragedy remains the same. On a summer evening, a couple and their children rowed out across the water. The weather was calm when they left, but as night approached, a sudden storm rolled in. Heavy winds capsized the boat, plunging all of them into the lake. Some say the parents tried desperately to save their children, their cries echoing across the water as they fought the current. But none of the family survived. Their bodies were recovered days later, found close together as if they had clung to one another until the end. Since then, Round Lake has carried a reputation that chills the bravest souls. Locals warn that after sunset, the lake becomes restless. Visitors who linger by the shore often describe hearing the soft cries of children drifting across the water. These cries are not sharp or panicked, but repetitive and mournful, as though the voices are locked in a loop of endless despair. Some believe it is the sound of the drowned family calling out for help that never came, while others insist the cries are a lure, meant to draw the living closer to the water's edge. The apparitions of children are the most unsettling phenomenon associated with Round Lake. Multiple witnesses have reported seeing small figures along the shoreline, their outlines pale and faint in the moonlight. The children appear to wander aimlessly, sometimes staring out across the water, other times running as if playing a game. What unnerves people most is when the figures stray beyond the shoreline. On calm nights, they are seen walking across the lake's surface as though it were frozen solid. Their small forms drift silently across the water, never leaving ripples behind, their faces often obscured by mist or shadow. These visions vanish the moment anyone attempts to approach. Campers tell of waking in the middle of the night to the sound of soft splashing, as though someone were wading through shallow water nearby. When they rise to investigate, they see nothing, though the splashing continues for several minutes before abruptly stopping. Others report footsteps moving through their campsites, faint impressions in the soil left behind, despite no visible presence. On rare occasions, some have awoken to the sound of children's laughter outside their tents, only to find the campsite eerily empty when they peek through the fabric. Fishermen have described sudden cold drafts sweeping across the water, chilling them even on warm summer nights. Some report feeling as though unseen hands are tugging at their boats, pulling them off course. A few claim to have heard the distinct sound of a child calling help from the water, only for the lake to remain empty when they searched. In more extreme cases, anglers have seen ghostly hands breaking the surface near their lines, only to disappear before creating a splash. Such accounts have left many unwilling to fish after dark, preferring the safer hours of daylight. One chilling story involves a young couple who visited the lake late one autumn evening. They sat by the water's edge, wrapped in blankets, enjoying the silence of the woods. Then, faint cries broke the stillness. At first, they thought it was an animal, but the sounds grew clearer, resembling the repeated call of a child in distress. When they peered out across the lake, they saw three small figures standing on the water, motionless and facing them. The figures did not move closer, but instead slowly vanished into a rolling mist that crept across the lake. The couple fled, returning home shaken, and later recounted that the figures resembled children holding hands. Skeptics argue that the cries are nothing more than the wind echoing through the trees, or the sounds of wildlife carried across the lake. Mist and shadows, they say, can easily be mistaken for figures in the dim light. Yet those who have stood on the banks of Round Lake insist that the experiences feel too deliberate, too personal, to be dismissed. The cries seem to call out names, the figures appear to react to being watched, and the sensations of presence are often overwhelming, leaving visitors with a sense of deep sorrow rather than simple fear. Local tradition has turned the family's drowning into both a cautionary tale and a haunting reminder. Some say the spirits remain bound to the lake, unable to move on because their final moments were so sudden and full of panic. Others believe they linger to warn the living of the lake's dangers, repeating their cries to prevent further tragedies. Yet, the persistence of sightings suggests that Round Lake holds on to its past with unyielding grip, replaying fragments of that summer night over and over again. By day, Round Lake may appear calm, a place of quiet fishing and scenic views. But once the sun dips below the horizon, the atmosphere changes, the air grows heavy, the shoreline feels less inviting, and the surface of the water reflects not peace but sorrow. For those who stay, the sound of children's cries may drift once more across the waves, a reminder that the family lost to the depths has never truly left. Their echoes remain, tethered to the water that claimed them, making Round Lake not just a natural landmark, but a place where the living brush shoulders with the lingering dead. Lasua Lake, a quiet and unassuming body of water tucked away in Minnesota, carries with it an air of unease that cannot be explained by its tranquil surface alone. During the day, its calm waters reflect the sky and the surrounding trees, creating a picture-perfect image of serenity. Families come to fish, swim, or simply rest by the shore. But when the sun sinks low and darkness spreads across the water, the lake's true character emerges. Lasua Lake is not just a place of nature and recreation, it is also a place steeped in mystery, where whispers of the past bleed into the present, and spirits said to belong to early settlers continue to linger. The lake's history is tied to the struggles of settlers who came to the area in the mid-1800s, seeking a fresh start. Many families built homes near its waters. Life was harsh, filled with disease, accidents, and violent clashes over territory. Over time, the lake became a silent witness to countless deaths, whether from illness, drowning, or other tragedies. Locals believe that the hardships endured here bound the spirits of these pioneers to the land, unable to leave the site of their suffering. Campers who stay near the lake often speak of strange experiences. On moonlit nights, glowing orbs of light have been seen floating above the water. At first, they appear faint, like lanterns in the distance, but as they drift closer, their glow intensifies, illuminating the ripples below them. Some describe these lights as calming, almost mesmerizing, while others claim the orbs instill an overwhelming dread, as if they are not natural at all, but entities in search of something or someone. The lights are not the only phenomenon associated with Lasua Lake. Many visitors claim to see dark, shadowy forms moving along the shoreline, their shapes too tall and distinct to be mistaken for animals. These forms glide noiselessly between trees, often pausing as though watching those nearby before vanishing into the darkness. Campers have described sitting by the fire when a shadow seemed to linger just beyond the glow, shifting in ways that suggested it was aware of being observed. No matter how closely they looked, there was nothing solid to be found. Perhaps the most unsettling reports, however, involve apparitions of figures dressed in clothing from another time. Witnesses describe seeing men in wide-brimmed hats and long coats, women in bonnets and dresses, and even children in old-fashioned attire. These figures appear briefly along the banks of the lake, only to vanish when approached. Some say they've spotted these spectral settlers standing in the shallows, staring out across the water as though searching for something they lost long ago. Others report hearing faint murmurs, like snippets of conversation carried on the wind, only to realize that no one else is nearby. One camper recalled waking in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps outside her tent. It was a woman, her dress fluttering as though caught in a wind that the camper could not feel. The figure lifted a hand, pointing across the water, before fading into nothing. The camper described feeling an overwhelming sadness, as though the apparition had tried to communicate something she could not understand. Fishermen also tell stories of strange encounters. On calm mornings, they sometimes hear voices whispering across the water. The words are often indistinct, but the tone is unmistakably human. At times, the whispers grow urgent, almost pleading, before vanishing altogether. Some fishermen swear they have seen their lines tugged by unseen forces, only to reel in nothing but an empty hook. Others report the feeling of being watched, glancing over their shoulders to find no one there. There are also stories of cold spots around the lake. Even in summer, when the air is warm and still, sudden blasts of icy air have swept over campers and hikers. These chills are often accompanied by the sensation of being followed or touched. One hiker described feeling a hand brush against his arm while walking near the water, though he was alone. When he turned, he saw only the trees and his own shadow stretching across the path. Locals whisper that Lasua Lake holds on to the restless energy of its history, a mixture of hardship, loss, and longing. Some say the lights that drift across the water are the souls of settlers searching for their homes or loved ones. Others believe the apparitions are tied to specific tragedies, individuals who drowned in the lake or who died in the nearby settlements, forever bound to the place of their suffering. Whatever the explanation, the sightings remain consistent across generations, passed down as warnings and tales of wonder. The most haunting aspect of Lasua Lake may not be what is seen, but what is felt. Visitors often describe an atmosphere of melancholy, as though the lake itself remembers everything that has occurred around it. The stillness of the water at night is oppressive, broken only by unexplained noises, splashes with no source, footsteps on empty ground, or faint cries carried on the breeze. While some dismiss these experiences as tricks of the imagination, those who have witnessed them firsthand rarely doubt what they saw or heard. By day, Lasua Lake remains a place of beauty, its waters reflecting the sunlight and drawing people to its shores. But by night, it transforms into a landscape where the veil between past and present grows thin. The lights that hover above the water, the shadows that move without sound, and the fleeting figures in old-fashioned clothing all serve as reminders that the lake holds more than just natural beauty. It holds memory, sorrow, and the lingering presence of those who came before. For anyone who dares to camp, fish, or wander its banks after dark, Lasua Lake offers more than an outdoor adventure. It offers a brush with the spectral, a glimpse into a history that refuses to remain buried. Lake Zumbro, with its broad expanse of shimmering water and quiet wooded banks, often gives the impression of a peaceful retreat. Nestled in southeastern Minnesota, it draws boaters, swimmers, and fishermen throughout the summer months. Yet beneath its calm surface lies a legend that has haunted the community for decades, a tale of tragedy, mystery, and a restless spirit that refuses to be forgotten. This story centers on a miner who met his untimely death within its depths, and whose presence, locals claim, still lingers along the lake's edge. The miner's story dates back to the early 1900s, when the area surrounding Lake Zumbro was alive with small mining operations. Men worked long, grueling hours, often in dangerous conditions, with little pay. Among them was a miner whose name has been lost to time, but whose fate would etch itself into local lore. One stormy night, after a day of labor, he ventured near the lake. Some say he was searching for solitude. Others whispered that he had been lured there by strange voices. Whatever the reason, he never returned. The next morning, his hat was found floating near the water's edge, but his body was never recovered. From that moment on, Lake Zumbro became more than a place of recreation. It became a place of unease. Generations have passed down the tale of the miner, describing how his spirit seems tied to the water that swallowed him. Locals say that on especially still nights, ghostly cries echo across the surface, The desperate pleas of a man begging for rescue that never came. The sound drifts across the water, indistinguishable from the wind, until it sharpens into the distinct tone of human anguish. Those who swim in the lake have shared chilling experiences. More than a few have described the feeling of being grasped by unseen hands beneath the surface. At first, it feels like a brush against the skin, something that might be dismissed as weeds or drifting debris. But then the sensation tightens, like fingers curling around an ankle or wrist, pulling downward with alarming force. Panic sets in, and only with frantic kicking do swimmers manage to break free. When they resurface, gasping for air, nothing is there. No branches, no ropes, only the miner's restless spirit reaching up from the depths. Boaters, to report their share of eerie encounters. On calm evenings, when the water reflects the twilight sky like glass, some have seen ripples form in perfect circles, as though something just beneath the surface is rising to break through. More disturbing are accounts of pale, spectral hands appearing at the side of boats, clutching the edge for just a moment before vanishing. One fisherman claimed he nearly capsized when he saw fingers, dripping with lake water, yet translucent as mist, latch onto the hull of his boat. In his terror, he paddled to shore, swearing never to fish the lake again. The sense of being watched is perhaps the most common report among visitors. Campers along the banks of Lake Zumbro speak of waking in the night to an inexplicable unease, convinced that unseen eyes are fixed on them. Some have described looking out over the water and seeing a figure standing waist-deep in the lake. Always, it appears at a distance, shrouded in mist, its features blurred, but unmistakably human. Witnesses say it raises an arm, either in greeting or in a plea for help, before dissolving into the fog. Local children grow up with the warnings of their elders. Stay away from the lake at night, or the miner will pull you under. While many dismiss these stories as folklore meant to keep kids safe, the consistency of the accounts suggests otherwise. Generations separated by decades describe the same chilling details: the cries for help, the phantom hands, the sensation of being watched from below. For many, the line between myth and reality at Lake Zumbro is frighteningly thin. Some paranormal investigators have attempted to capture evidence of the haunting. Teams with audio equipment have recorded strange anomalies near the shoreline, faint voices whispering through static, desperate and indistinct, as if speaking from underwater. Thermal cameras have captured cold spots hovering above the lake, areas of unnatural chill that move against the wind. One group claimed to see a dim figure walking across the shallows, its body illuminated faintly in the infrared spectrum before disappearing into nothingness. Skeptics argue that natural explanations could account for some of these experiences. Underwater vegetation might tangle around swimmers' legs, causing the sensation of being grabbed. Temperature changes across the lake could create patches of cool air. The human mind, primed by the legend, might conjure figures from mist and shadows. Yet even the most rational explanations falter in the face of so many consistent reports. The fear etched in the voices of those who have experienced a miner's touch is difficult to dismiss as mere imagination. The legend of Lake Zumbro Estron Miner is more than a ghost story. It is a reminder of the fragility of life and the weight of untimely death. The miner, a man lost to history, remains bound to the waters that claimed him, his spirit forever reaching for rescue. Each hand that brushes a swimmer, each cry that echoes across the lake, and each shadow glimpsed in the mist reinforces the idea that some tragedies never fade into silence. Today, Lake Zumbro continues to draw visitors with its beauty. Families gather along its shores, fishermen cast their lines, and boaters skim across its shimmering surface. But those who know its darker side approach with caution. For while the lake appears calm and welcoming by day, its waters hold secrets that stir most fiercely at night. The cries of the miner, the hands that reach from the depths, and the feeling of unseen eyes serve as warnings. Lake Zumbro is more than just a lake. It is a haunted grave, a place where the past refuses to rest. Big Marine Lake, stretching across the quiet countryside of Washington County, Minnesota, is often admired for its clear waters, sandy shores, and peaceful atmosphere. Families come here to swim, fish, and camp, enjoying the serenity of the woods that surround it. On the surface, it seems like the perfect retreat from the bustle of nearby towns. Yet, beneath the beauty and calm, the lake holds a darker reputation, one that has been whispered from generation to generation. Big Marine Lake, according to local legend, is haunted not by a single spirit, but by a collection of restless souls whose presence is tied to its waters. The most enduring tales revolve around ghostly boats, muffled cries echoing across the surface, and the disturbing sight of pale faces reflected in the moonlit ripples. The story begins with the earliest settlers who arrived in the area during the 19th century. Life near the lake was not without hardship, and stories of drownings soon became part of its history. Accounts of men lost while fishing, children swept away by unexpected currents, and even entire boats that disappeared without explanation became woven into the fabric of local lore. These tragedies left behind unanswered questions, and many came to believe that the spirits of the drowned remained tied to the lake, forever searching for something they had lost. One of the most chilling legends centers on the phantom rowboat. Visitors to Big Marine Lake have reported seeing them glide across the water late at night, especially under the light of a full moon. These boats appear solid and ordinary at first glance, wooden vessels cutting across the surface with the rhythmic sound of oars dipping into the water. But upon closer inspection, there is no one inside. The boats drift with purpose, moving steadily as though guided by unseen hands, before vanishing into the mist that clings to the lake's edges. The sounds that accompany these spectral boats are equally unsettling. Campers and late-night strollers have described hearing the steady creak of wooden oarlocks, the splashing of water, and faint, muffled cries. Some say the cries resemble calls for help, voices caught in desperation that never reach safety. Others describe them as the low moans of souls long lost, carrying sorrow across the waves. What makes these accounts most unnerving is their consistency. People from different backgrounds, on different nights, share nearly identical details. For those brave enough to approach the water's edge during these strange occurrences, the experience grows even more haunting. Witnesses claim that if you look down into the water when the moon is full, you may see faces staring back. These are not reflections of those standing on shore, but pale, indistinct figures whose hollow eyes and blurred features seem to float just beneath the surface. They do not move like fish or distort like ripples. Instead, they hover, fixed and silent, watching from below. Many who have seen them describe an overwhelming sense of sorrow mixed with dread, as if the lake itself is pulling at them, urging them to step closer, to join the faces beneath. Stories of Big Marine Lake's hauntings are not limited to casual visitors. Fishermen have often shared unsettling experiences while out on the water. Some report feeling sudden cold drafts sweep across their boats, even on warm nights, followed by the faint sound of whispers carried on the wind. Others have hooked fish only to watch them vanish from the line without explanation, as though something unseen had taken hold of the catch. One fisherman recounted how his small boat began to rock violently despite calm waters, and when he leaned over the side, he swore he saw hands rising from the water, pale and translucent, before disappearing into the depths. Kayakers and canoeists tell of phantom currents, invisible forces that seem to push or pull their boats off course. At times, their paddles catch in the water, as though snagged on something below. Though the lake is free of obstructions, some claim to hear splashes nearby, as if another boat is on the water. Yet, when they turn to look, there is nothing but ripples fading into the stillness. Locals often warn newcomers not to linger by the lake after midnight. They say the spirits grow most active in the hours between dusk and dawn, restless and searching. There are stories of people who ignored the warnings, only to return shaken and pale, unwilling to speak of what they had experienced. A few never returned at all, their disappearances quietly attributed to accidents, but whispered about in darker tones. Paranormal enthusiasts have been drawn to Big Marine Lake in hopes of documenting its mysteries. Audio recordings taken at night often reveal strange anomalous, soft cries and unexplained splashes where no one is present. Photographs of the shoreline sometimes show faint, blurred shapes in the mist, figures that seem human but dissolve when examined closely. In one widely shared account, a group claimed to capture video footage of a rowboat gliding silently across the lake. It moved steadily for several minutes before fading into the fog, leaving behind only ripples that quickly vanished. Skeptics argue that many of these experiences can be explained by natural phenomena. Mist on the lake can create illusions, and the play of moonlight can distort reflections. Sounds travel easily over water, making distant noises seem closer and more mysterious. Yet those who have experienced the hauntings firsthand insist that what they encountered was not illusion, but something far more chilling. Their descriptions carry a weight of sincerity and fear that logic struggles to dismiss. Big Marine Lake, with its blend of beauty and sorrow, embodies the tension between the natural and the supernatural. It offers peace to those who visit by day, but by night it reveals another Fisa place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blur. The phantom rowboats, the muffled cries, and the ghostly faces beneath the water remind us that tragedies leave behind more than memories. They leave imprints, echoes that linger long after the events themselves are forgotten. Today, the lake continues to attract campers, swimmers, and families seeking escape into nature. But for those who know its stories, the sight of moonlight on the water carries a different weight. They look into the rippling surface and wonder whose eyes might be staring back, and whether the sounds they hear in the distance belong to the living or the dead. Big Marine Lake remains a place of mystery, a reminder that beneath the beauty of still waters, darkness can dwell, waiting for those who dare to look too closely. White Bear Lake, nestled in the wooded outskirts of Minnesota, appears serene and inviting during the day. Its calm waters reflect the sky with mirror-like clarity, and families flock to its shores to fish, boat, or picnic. But as night falls, the lake takes on a much more sinister character, earning it a place in local legend as one of the most haunted bodies of water in the state. Beyond its picturesque surface lies a history of drownings, mysterious vanishings, and unexplained phenomena that have left an indelible mark on the community's collective memory. Nighttime at White Bear Lake is when the stories truly come alive. Fishermen who brave the quiet waters after dark have reported hearing voices carried across the lake by the wind. These voices often sound distant, echoing across the waves as if calling to someone. Some are described as whispers, gentle and insistent, while others are panicked cries for help. Many who have encountered them describe an immediate sense of unease, a feeling that they are being observed or drawn toward the center of the lake by unseen hands. One of the most frequently mentioned phenomena at White Bear Lake is the appearance of floating lights, often likened to lanterns. These spectral lights bob gently across the surface, glimmering in the darkness with a soft, eerie glow. Fishermen and nightwalkers alike have attempted to approach them, only to find that the lights vanish without a trace the moment they get close. Some locals believe these lights are the restless spirits of those who drowned in the lake, trapped between the world of the living and the afterlife, guiding or warning the living of hidden dangers beneath the surface. Others suspect they are illusions, created by fog, water reflections, or distant lights from homes along the shore. Yet the consistency of these sightings over decades, reported by multiple, unrelated witnesses, lends a chilling credibility to the stories. The waters themselves are said to harbor a malevolent presence. Visitors have described feeling cold, invisible currents tugging at their legs while wading near the shore. A sensation so forceful that it feels as though something is attempting to drag them under. Swimmers tell tales of sudden chills in otherwise warm water, of currents that form where none should exist, and of the overwhelming sense that they are not alone. Boaters recount that their vessels sometimes rock unexpectedly in the absence of wind or waves, and that oars can suddenly feel heavier, as though being pulled by an unseen hand. Some of the lake's hauntings are tied to specific tragedies from its past. Over the decades, White Bear Lake has claimed the lives of several individuals, including children and young adults, many during recreational activities or sudden storms. Each death, particularly those that occurred under mysterious or violent circumstances, is said to have left a lingering energy, feeding the haunting experiences described by modern visitors. Locals recount stories passed down through families, children's laughter that echoes from the woods, with no one in sight, fleeting shadowy figures moving across the water, and the occasional glimpse of a pale wet figure rising from the lake before vanishing into the darkness. Even those on the shore have reported disturbing encounters. Campers and walkers at night have spoken of whispers that appear to come from the water itself, soft but persistent, as if the lake is calling to them. Some hear names being repeated, though no one is present to speak them, while others hear urgent warnings or incomprehensible phrases that vanish when they strain to listen. Dogs and other animals in the area are said to react nervously, barking at invisible figures or refusing to approach certain sections of the lake entirely. Photographs taken at White Bear Lake at night occasionally capture anomalies that defy explanation. Lights that appear in long exposure images do not correspond with any nearby sources. Faint silhouettes appear along the water's edge, and mist sometimes forms shapes that resemble human figures. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to the lake for years, setting up cameras, audio equipment, and EMF detectors, hoping to record undeniable evidence of its supernatural activity. Many report capturing strange audio patterns, soft moans, distant cries, or voices calling for help that vanish when replayed under normal conditions. The legend of White Bear Lake continues to grow, fueled by the countless personal accounts of those who have experienced its eerie side. The combination of floating lights, invisible currents, whispered voices, and shadowy figures creates an atmosphere of tension and unease, even for those visiting during the day. Locals warn that the hauntings intensify during nights of fog or storms, when visibility is low and the natural world seems to mirror the lake's restless energy. Yet despite its sinister reputation, people are drawn to White Bear Lake. Fishermen, campers, and paranormal enthusiasts are intrigued by the mysteries lurking just beneath its calm surface. Some come seeking evidence, others simply drawn by the stories passed down through generations. Each encounter adds another layer to the lake's haunted narrative, reinforcing the belief that White Bear Lake is more than just a beautiful body of water, is a place where the past lingers, where the souls of those lost refuse to rest, and where the veil between the living and the dead is disturbingly thin. For anyone who ventures to White Bear Lake at night, it is advised to remain cautious. Listen carefully to the whispers carried by the wind. Watch the flickering lights on the water, and be aware of currents that seem to have a mind of their own. The lake may seem peaceful, but beneath its placid surface lies a restless history, waiting silently for those who dare to enter its domain. Cass Lake, situated in the northern woods of Minnesota, presents a serene and picturesque scene by day, its waters reflecting the surrounding pines and the vast open sky. Fishermen drift silently across its calm surface, families picnic along its shores, and kayakers paddle through quiet coves. Yet, as the sun sinks beneath the horizon and darkness settles over the lake, Cass Lake transforms into a place of unsettling mystery, drawing in those who seek the thrill of the unknown or the whispers of old legends. Locals have long told stories of ghostly occurrences along its shores, tales that have been passed down for generations, growing more chilling with each retelling. Nightfall brings with it the first hints of Cass Lake's haunted nature. Campers setting up tents along the shoreline often report strange sounds as darkness envelops the forest. Whispers seem to drift from the trees lining the water's edge, calling names softly, almost intimately, as if the spirits know those who have come to visit. Those who wake in the middle of the night sometimes hear these calls more clearly, urgent, insistent, yet impossible to trace. Attempts to find the source often prove fruitless. The forest remains empty, save for the rustling of leaves and the soft lapping of water against the shore. Anglers and boaters have recounted the most unnerving phenomena. Some claim to have seen faint, shadowy figures walking across the water as if it were solid ground, moving silently from one end of the lake to the other before vanishing into thin air. Others have experienced boats rocking or drifting unexpectedly, with no wind or current strong enough to cause such movement. In several instances, lights have appeared in empty boats, small lantern-like glows, bobbing as if held by an invisible occupant. When approached, the lights vanish, leaving nothing but the gentle ripples on the lake's surface and a growing sense of unease. Fishermen who linger after dark often speak of hearing faint splashes far from their boats, as if someone or something is swimming just beyond their reach. These sounds are irregular, never following the patterns of natural water movement, and often accompanied by sudden drops in temperature. Boaters report feeling phantom currents tugging at their vessels, the lake itself seeming to resist their presence, as if some hidden force beneath the surface asserts its dominance over intruders. The lake's haunted reputation is reinforced by its long history of tragic drownings and disappearances. Over the decades, numerous people have vanished while fishing, swimming, or boating, some during sudden storms, others under circumstances that were never fully explained. Locals believe these spirits never truly left the area, lingering in Cass Lake's waters and surrounding forests, bound by the abrupt and untimely nature of their deaths. Some even suggest that the lake is alive with a consciousness of its own, one that reacts to the living with subtle, terrifying warnings. In addition to sightings on the water, many have witnessed ghostly figures along the shoreline itself. Shadows are often described as moving with intent, pausing to observe the living before fading into the night. Campers and hikers have reported fleeting glimpses of translucent forms standing just beyond the tree line, sometimes watching silently, sometimes disappearing when approached. These apparitions often resemble individuals from decades past, dressed in clothing styles of earlier generations, as if time itself holds no dominion within this haunted domain. Visitors have also reported strange auditory phenomena, from disembodied footsteps following them along paths near the water to the eerie sound of distant laughter carried on the wind. Others hear the soft creak of oars moving through water, or the sound of a boat bumping gently against a dock, though no vessel is present. Audio recordings made by paranormal enthusiasts frequently capture unexplainable noises, whispers, muffled cries, and sounds resembling people moving stealthily through underbrush. These experiences suggest that the lake's supernatural activity is not confined to visual apparitions, but permeates the very environment itself. The effects of Cass Lake's hauntings extend even to those who do not venture directly onto the water. Campers report waking suddenly, chilled despite warm summer nights, with the sensation of unseen eyes upon them. Dogs and other animals react nervously, barking at empty spaces or refusing to cross certain areas entirely. Local lore holds that ignoring these warnings can provoke more intense interactions, with spirits becoming more insistent, guiding the living toward safer areas or, in some cases, toward danger. Despite its foreboding reputation, Cass Lake continues to draw people, both thrill seekers and those intrigued by its mysteries. While skeptics attribute the experiences to natural causes, wind, and optical illusions, the consistency and detail of the reports from unrelated witnesses are difficult to dismiss. Each account adds another layer to the lake's growing legend, solidifying its status as a haunted landmark. For anyone brave enough to approach Cass Lake after dark, caution is advised. Listen for whispers carried on the wind. Watch the water for lights and shadows that move of their own accord, and remain aware of sudden chills or phantom currents. The lake may seem calm and inviting, but beneath its placid surface lies a restless history, a collection of spirits, unwilling or unable to leave. Cass Lake is a place where the past reaches forward into the present, where the line between the living and the dead blurs, and where every ripple, shadow, and whisper tells the story of those who never returned. Lake Calhoun, also known by its original Dakota name, Bde Makaska, is one of Minneapolis's most beloved lakes, its sparkling surface reflecting the skyline and surrounding greenery. By day, families stroll along its trails, kayakers glide across its calm waters, and picnickers enjoy the warmth of the sun. Yet, beneath its serene exterior lies a history shadowed by tragedy and unexplained phenomena, making Bde Makaska a hotspot for paranormal reports that continue to intrigue and terrify locals and visitors alike. Evenings at Lake Calhoun can feel entirely different from the daylight scene. As dusk settles, A subtle tension seems to settle over the water, a shift in the air that hints at unseen presences. Visitors have reported catching glimpses of figures on the shoreline who vanish when approached. Often these apparitions are described as translucent rowers, drifting silently across the lake, their oars cutting through the water with a fluidity that defies the normal physics of the waves. Some observers claim these ghostly figures are dressed in old-fashioned attire, reminiscent of a time when the lake was a hub for recreation, long before modern development reshaped the landscape. Swimmers venturing into the lake during late hours have told of strange sensations beneath the water's surface. Ripples form seemingly at random, moving against the wind or current. And some have felt hands graze their legs, tugging gently as if beckoning them deeper. A few adventurous kayakers have described moments when their paddles suddenly feel heavier, their boats moving in directions they did not intend, guided by invisible forces. The lake, though familiar in daylight, seems alive after dark, a presence that watches and interacts with those who dare to enter its waters. The stories extend to those walking along the surrounding trails as well. Figures are frequently seen along the tree-lined paths, sometimes paused to stare silently at the lake before fading into darkness. Campers and evening joggers have reported cold spots that appear without warning, shivering despite warm summer temperatures. Dogs accompanying their owners often react nervously to empty spaces, barking or refusing to proceed along certain areas, as if sensing entities beyond human perception. Whispered voices sometimes drift across the water, calling names or uttering phrases in languages no one recognizes, leaving witnesses unnerved and alert. Many of these paranormal occurrences are tied to BDE Makaska's history. While today it is a recreational haven, the lake has seen its share of drowning incidents and untimely deaths over the decades. It is said that some spirits remain tethered to the water, replaying the moments of their demise or simply wandering in search of solace. Local lore suggests that the ghostly rowers may be individuals who perished on the lake, forever rowing along its expanse, visible only to those who venture out after sunset. Others speak of figures appearing near old piers and docks, standing silently and watching, as if guarding the waters from the living. Observers have consistently reported auditory phenomena that defy explanation. Some hear the rhythmic splash of oars hitting the water when no one is present, the soft creaking of empty boats rocking in place, or the distant laughter of children who vanished long ago. Audio recordings by paranormal enthusiasts occasionally capture strange sounds, whispers echoing across the lake, muted cries, and low, unintelligible murmurs that seem to emerge from the depths. These experiences suggest that the supernatural activity at Lake Calhoun is not confined to visual apparitions, but permeates the environment itself, blending with the natural sounds of the lake in a chilling harmony. Kayakers and canoeists have reported a particularly unnerving phenomenon, a feeling of being followed. Ripples trail behind them in patterns that defy wind and current, shadows skimming the water's edge, always just beyond sight. Many have felt an unseen presence brush against their boats, a subtle warning or a ghostly companion guiding them along. Nighttime fishermen describe their lines tightening with no fish on the hook, sudden splashes in the water beside them, and rods bending as if some invisible force tugs with intent. The lake's surrounding areas are not immune to haunting activity. Those walking near the shoreline have noticed lantern-like lights floating above the water, bobbing silently before disappearing. Some claim to have seen spectral figures emerging from the reeds, vanishing just as they approach. Campers report waking suddenly to the sensation of being watched, their tents surrounded by cold, invisible air currents. Even longtime residents of the area speak of subtle, inexplicable movements and noises that persist night after night, reinforcing the lake's reputation as a haunted site. Despite its modern amenities and daytime appeal, Lake Calhoun continues to hold a mysterious allure for thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. Investigators frequently visit to capture evidence of ghostly activity, setting up cameras, audio devices, and infrared sensors, hoping to document what others have witnessed for generations. While skeptics may attribute sightings and sounds to natural phenomena or imagination, The consistency of reports over decades suggests something more than coincidence, a lingering energy that refuses to fade. For anyone who dares to explore BDE Makaska after dark, caution is essential. Pay attention to shadows that shift in the corner of your vision. Listen for the soft lap of oars without a rower, and be aware of subtle ripples that move independently across the surface. The lake, serene in daylight, becomes an unpredictable realm after sunset, where spirits of the past interact with the living in fleeting, unsettling ways. Whether a ghostly rower, a figure on the shore, or an unseen hand tugging at your canoe, Lake Calhoun reminds all who visit that beneath its placid surface lies a world where the boundary between life and the afterlife blurs. Lake Cabotagama, nestled deep in the northern forests of Minnesota, is a place of serene beauty by day, its waters reflecting the dense canopy of pines and birches that fringe the shoreline. The lake stretches across miles of wilderness, dotted with small islands and hidden inlets, offering hunters, fishermen, and campers a haven of solitude. Yet, beneath this tranquil exterior lies a history shadowed by tragedy and unexplained phenomena, earning the lake a reputation as one of Minnesota's most haunted waters. Locals speak in hushed tones about disappearances, ghostly apparitions, and eerie sounds that seem to echo across the lake, even in the dead of night. The lake has been a site of numerous disappearances over the decades. Hunters who ventured into the surrounding woods have vanished without a trace, leaving behind only abandoned campsites or overturned gear. Campers tell of waking to find their companions gone, footsteps leading into the forest, and then abruptly stopping, as if someone or something had simply disappeared into the air. These events have given rise to countless tales of restless spirits wandering the shoreline, bound to the places where their lives ended unexpectedly. Many who visit after sunset describe a pervasive feeling of being watched, a heavy, inescapable dread that seems to press down on the chest, making every sound and movement around the lake feel amplified and menacing. These sounds are often accompanied by splashes, as if someone has fallen or dived into the lake in an instant, yet no one is seen. Campers who hear these noises have rushed to investigate, only to find the shoreline empty, their boats and fishing gear untouched. The auditory phenomena are accompanied by other, subtler signs: the faint creak of oars on boats that remain docked, the rustle of leaves in areas untouched by wind, and the soft crunch of footsteps across sand or gravel that stops abruptly, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Shadowy figures are another frequent report from those exploring Lake Cabotagama after dark. Visitors have described fleeting forms moving along the tree line, barely discernible but unmistakably human in shape. These apparitions often appear to be hunters or campers, clothed in old-fashioned gear, sometimes holding rifles or fishing rods. As witnesses approach, the figures vanish into the darkness or melt into the forest, leaving only the sound of snapping twigs behind. Some observers claim to see figures standing on the water itself, their reflections distorted or absent entirely, creating a sense that the lake itself is a liminal space where the living and the dead converge. The lake's islands and secluded inlets seem to amplify the haunting phenomena. Canoeists and kayakers report being followed by shadows that remain at the edge of visibility, moving in tandem with their boats. Others experience sudden, inexplicable cold spots that sweep across the water or the shoreline, chilling them to the bone even on summer nights. Some visitors have described being gripped by an unseen force, a pressure on their shoulders or a tug on their arms, as if the spirits are interacting directly, guiding or warning the living to turn back. The atmosphere is often so oppressive that even seasoned outdoorsmen describe an instinctual drive to leave, a feeling that the lake itself is alive and aware of their presence. Locals have long theorized that the paranormal activity at Lake Cabotagama is tied to its history. Beyond the drownings and disappearances, the area has a legacy of accidents during hunting and fishing excursions, with sudden storms and treacherous currents claiming lives unexpectedly. Indigenous folklore also speaks of spirits inhabiting the waters, protectors of the lake, who become restless when their domain is disturbed. Many believe that these energies have persisted through the decades, carried in the water, the forest, and even in the fog that frequently rolls over the surface in the evenings. Witnesses have reported the fog behaving strangely, thickening around certain areas and appearing to pulse or shift in unnatural ways, often coinciding with other paranormal events. Campsites and cabins along the lake are not exempt from strange encounters. Occupants often awaken to doors that swing open without wind, items moved from their original positions, and cold drafts that appear suddenly in the middle of a warm room. Some campers report hearing whispered voices calling their names or soft laughter echoing through the trees. Those brave enough to explore the forest at night sometimes encounter disembodied figures that vanish the moment they are approached, leaving a lingering sense of unease that persists even after leaving the lake. Fishermen and boaters also share chilling accounts. Rods bend and lines snap without apparent cause. Splashes disturb the calm surface with no discernible source, and headlights or lanterns appear in the distance but vanish when approached. In some cases, travelers report seeing reflections in the water of people who were never present in the boat, often staring silently before dissolving into the lake's dark depths. The combination of visual, auditory, and tactile experiences has made Lake Cabotagama a focal point for ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts, many of whom attempt to document the activity using cameras, audio recorders, and other devices. Whether these reports stem from the restless spirits of those who perished, or from the lake's mysterious and powerful natural energy, Lake Cabotagama remains a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels unnervingly thin. Hikers, campers, and boaters are urged to respect the lake, particularly after dark, as its haunting presence continues to captivate and terrify those who venture too close. The Whitefish Chain of Lakes, a sprawling network of interconnected waters in northern Minnesota, presents a picture of serene beauty by day, with dense forests hugging its shores and smooth, reflective surfaces stretching into the horizon. Yet beneath the tranquility, the chain holds a dark legacy. For over a century, these lakes have been linked to drownings, logging accidents, and the mysterious disappearances of early settlers. The stories of those lost have endured, leaving behind a chilling reputation that keeps even the bravest locals cautious after dark. Anglers, kayakers, and campers who venture into the area at night often recount unsettling experiences, suggesting that the spirits of the past continue to linger among the waters and wooded shores. Many tales speak of drowned loggers whose spirits refuse to leave the lakes. In the early 1900s, timber crews navigated the lakes in small boats, hauling felled trees and crossing waterways to reach distant mills. Accidents were frequent. Boats capsized, logs shifted, and some men never made it back to shore. Witnesses today report seeing spectral figures in the water, often just at the edge of visibility. Sometimes they appear to be struggling against invisible currents, while other times they float silently, staring toward the observer with hollow, unreadable expressions. Kayakers paddling through certain coves have felt phantom hands brush against their arms or legs, as if attempting to pull them beneath the surface, though no one else is nearby. Fishermen along the lakes have shared stories of inexplicable disturbances. Lines snap or bend sharply without contact. Ripples spread across perfectly still waters, and the soft, persistent sound of someone waiting or walking along the shallows can be heard when the shore is empty. On misty mornings, some report seeing shadows dart across the surface, often in formations reminiscent of figures in early logging attire, disappearing when approached. At night, spectral lights sometimes hover above the water, bobbing gently like lanterns from the past. Those who attempt to track these lights report losing them within seconds, leaving only the quiet lapping of waves against a dock or canoe. Several coves in the Whitefish Chain are notorious among locals for heightened paranormal activity. Some are avoided entirely after dark, their names whispered with trepidation. Visitors describe sudden, unnatural fogs rolling in from the water, enveloping their boats and obscuring the shoreline completely. Within the mist, disembodied voices call out, often repeating the names of long-dead settlers or loggers, or issuing warnings in low, urgent tones. Some kayakers have reported hearing cries for help echoing from the surrounding woods, only to discover no one is there, the sound fading as mysteriously as it began. These phenomena suggest that the spirits inhabiting the chain are not merely passive observers, but interact with the living fate, sometimes with benign curiosity, at other times with an unsettling intensity. Campers near the lake are not immune to these hauntings. Tents and cabins have been the sites of strange occurrences, doors opening and closing on their own, objects shifting position inexplicably, and sudden cold drafts that leave even a warm campsite feeling frigid. Visitors often describe a pervasive sense of being watched, an oppressive awareness that intensifies after sunset. Some recount glimpsing shadowy forms moving along the forest edge, only to vanish when looked at directly. Others hear whispers that mimic conversation or the soft murmur of distant work echoes of the logging era and early settlement life that seem to replay eternally across the chain of lakes. The interconnected nature of the Whitefish chain appears to amplify these phenomena. Boaters traveling from one lake to another report being followed by fleeting shadows, even when separated from other watercraft. The water seems to carry the echoes of past tragedies, allowing the spirits to drift seamlessly from one body of water to the next. Many local legends suggest that the unrested dead are bound not just to one location but to the entire chain, moving freely across the lakes as they attempt to reenact the events that led to their untimely demise. Historical records support some of these tales. Logs from the early 20th century recount numerous drownings and missing person incidents associated with logging operations, storms, and early settlement activities. Over time, oral histories embellished the events, blending fact and folklore into a tapestry of terror that continues to captivate and frighten those who come into contact with the lakes. Whether the modern sightings are remnants of tragic accidents or the manifestation of a supernatural presence, the consistency of the reports across decades suggests that there is more at work than coincidence alone. Visitors often describe the feeling of tension building as they approach the more infamous coves. The air grows heavy, sounds from the surrounding forest become muted, and a creeping chill runs down the spine, even in the height of summer. Some claim that the spirits here are protective of their waters, warning the living away from areas that were the sites of fatal accidents. Others say that the ghosts are restless, replaying their final moments in an endless loop, seeking attention, recognition, or perhaps revenge. The haunting presence along the Whitefish chain of lakes is a reminder of the region as often violent and treacherous past. Despite the beauty of the waters and the dense wilderness, the area carries the weight of lives lost to accidents, storms, and misfortune. Those who venture onto the lakes after dark are stepping into a world where the line between the living and the dead is tenuous at best, where unseen hands brush against the hulls of boats, where whispers echo across the water, and where shadowy figures remind travelers that the past never truly lets go. Even today, local guides, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers continue to explore the chain, hoping to document the activity or experience it firsthand. Cameras, audio recorders, and night vision equipment frequently capture anomalies, fleeting shadows, unexplained lights, or sudden drops in temperature, rating credibility to stories that have persisted for generations. Whether skeptic or believer, anyone who visits the Whitefish chain at night is likely to leave with an unsettling sense that the lakes are not merely bodies of water, but resting places for spirits who will not be forgotten. Red Lake, sprawling across the northern reaches of Minnesota, is renowned for its size, beauty, and the mysteries it conceals beneath its serene surface. By day, the lake stretches into the horizon, calm and seemingly ordinary, but locals and visitors alike have long whispered of the supernatural that lurks within its remote waters. The lake's history is riddled with shipwrecks, drownings, and unexplained disappearances, leaving a legacy that refuses to rest. Those who traverse its shores or venture onto its waters after dark often encounter experiences that defy explanation, suggesting that Red Lake is not just a natural wonder, but a haven for the restless spirits of the past. The earliest stories speak of fishermen and settlers lost to the lake's depths. During storms, small vessels capsized, leaving crews stranded and victims swept beneath the cold waves. Over time, tales emerged of spectral figures, sometimes seen as shadowy silhouettes, walking across the water's surface. Other times, standing silently along the deserted beaches. Witnesses describe these apparitions as almost translucent, their outlines wavering like mist and vanishing when approached, leaving behind only the faint echo of footsteps or the soft lapping of waves. Many say that these are the spirits of those who perished in tragic accidents, unable or unwilling to leave the place where they met their end. Boaters on Red Lake frequently recount unnerving experiences. As twilight falls, the lake seems to change. A dense fog often rolls in without warning, enveloping everything in an impenetrable gray shroud. Within this mist, people have reported hearing the haunting toll of bells, foghorns, or even the distant creak of a ship's timbers. Though no vessel is in sight, some describe the sudden, eerie sensation of being watched, a cold presence pressing against their consciousness, as if unseen eyes are following every movement. Kayakers and anglers alike have reported phantom ripples trailing their boats, as though something beneath the water is gliding alongside them, unseen but undeniably there. Red Lake's shorelines are equally mysterious. Hikers and late-night campers have shared stories of shadowy figures appearing among the trees or along the sand. These forms are often tall and humanoid, yet indistinct, their features impossible to discern. Witnesses sometimes hear soft, whispered calls, echoing over the water, or the faint laughter of children long gone. On more than one occasion, people claim to have seen spectral rowboats gliding silently toward the shore, only to vanish the instant they draw near. Some locals caution against venturing too close to the water alone at night, warning that the spirits are restless, particularly in areas where drownings or accidents were historically frequent. Even the most experienced fishermen have been unsettled by Red Lake. Lines snap without cause. Rods bend sharply when no fish is present, and the water occasionally churns with no wind or visible movement. At times, spectral lights dance across the surface, reflecting in the water in ways that defy physics. Those who try to approach these lights often report a cold hand grazing their arm or shoulder, accompanied by a feeling of immense sorrow or urgent warning. In some of the more remote inlets, the apparitions are said to be territorial, warding intruders away from areas that have long been their resting places. Many ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts have traveled to Red Lake to document these occurrences. EMF spikes, temperature drops, and unexplained recordings of faint voices or cries have been reported. Some claim that the lake itself seems to carry a consciousness, an awareness of intruders on its surface or along its shores. Night vision cameras and audio equipment often capture fleeting shadows or the sound of footsteps and voices that cannot be attributed to any human presence. The consistency of these reports over decades has cemented Red Lake's reputation as one of Minnesota's most haunted waters. Local legend also speaks of the Red Lake Watchers, spirits believed to be bound to the lake to ensure that its tragic history is never forgotten. These entities are said to appear most often during foggy nights or stormy weather, when the water is rough and visibility is low. Those who have encountered them describe a profound sense of unease, as though the spirits are simultaneously warning and mourning, a duality of intent that leaves visitors disoriented and fearful. Boaters who heed these silent warnings often escape without incident, while those who ignore the signs sometimes recount unsettling events, from sudden capsizing sensations to inexplicable currents tugging at their vessels. Despite its haunting presence, Red Lake continues to attract visitors, drawn by both its natural beauty and its chilling reputation. Kayakers, anglers, and explorers come seeking the thrill of the unknown, hoping to catch a glimpse of the lake's spectral inhabitants or experience the unexplained phenomena firsthand. Some leave with nothing more than a lingering unease, while others return with stories of ghostly figures gliding across the water, lights bobbing in the fog, or whispers echoing across the deserted beaches. The lake remains a place where history, tragedy, and the supernatural converge, a reminder that not all spirits find peace, and that some remain tethered to the waters that claimed them. For generations, Red Lake has held a mirror to the past, reflecting the lives lost and the secrets kept beneath its vast, dark surface. Whether one sees the apparitions as restless souls, echoes of historical tragedies, or manifestations of the imagination, the reports continue to intrigue and terrify. The lake's serene exterior masks a hidden world, one where the drowned walk, the lost call, and the boundaries between the living and the dead blur for those who venture onto its waters at night. Red Lake is not just a body of water, but a haunted passage through history, where the past never truly lets go. Mille Lacs Lake, one of Minnesota's largest and most enigmatic bodies of water, has long captivated the imagination of locals and travelers alike. By day, its vast expanse stretches peacefully across the horizon, framed by dense forests and rolling hills. But after sunset, the lake takes on an entirely different character. Those who venture near its shores at night often report a sense of unease, a quiet tension that hints at the spirits lingering beneath the calm surface. Mille Lacs is not merely a scenic destination. It is a place where the tragedies of the past continue to resonate, leaving an indelible mark on anyone who dares to explore its haunted waters. The earliest tales of supernatural activity at Mille Lacs are rooted in the history of the region. Indigenous stories speak of spirits tied to the water, guardians and lost souls alike, whose presence was meant to caution or punish those who disrespected the lake. As European settlers arrived, drownings and boating accidents became all too common, adding new layers to the lake's dark lore. Over the years, fishermen, campers, and night travelers began reporting encounters that could not be easily explained: vanishing companions, inexplicable noises, and the unmistakable sensation of being watched. These stories have persisted through generations, creating a chilling backdrop for anyone exploring the lake after dark. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves spectral canoes gliding silently across the water. Witnesses describe seeing the faint outlines of boats, sometimes occupied by shadowy figures, moving without oars or visible propulsion. These ghostly vessels are often glimpsed from the shoreline or by those paddling on the lake themselves. The canoes appear to move in a slow, deliberate rhythm, following invisible paths that seem to trace old routes long forgotten. In some accounts, the figures within these spectral canoes raise their heads and look toward observers with hollow, indistinct faces before vanishing entirely. The eerie calm of the lake during these sightings intensifies the sense that the water itself is aware, holding its breath as the supernatural unfolds. Fishermen on Mille Lacs at night have shared some of the most unsettling experiences. Many recount setting their lines and hearing rhythmic tapping paddles, striking the water when no other boats are near. Some report seeing their fishing companions or strangers disappear into the mist, only to reappear moments later on a distant part of the shore, frozen in place, staring blankly toward the lake. The water itself sometimes behaves unnaturally. Currents shift against the wind, and areas that should be deep remain inexplicably shallow, or vice versa, as though the lake is reshaping itself around the spectral activity. These phenomena suggest that Mille Lacs is not merely a haunted location, but a living, breathing entity that interacts with both the living and the dead. Campers and hikers near the lake also share chilling accounts. As night falls, they report sudden cold spots along the shoreline, often accompanied by whispers carried on the wind. Some have felt unseen hands brushing against their arms or shoulders, urging them back from certain areas of the lake. Shadowy figures are sometimes seen, moving among the trees lining the shore, appearing to watch the water rather than the forest. In many cases, these presences vanish when approached, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread and the undeniable impression that the lake is alive with spirits who have not moved on. Several accounts speak of drowned souls replaying the moments before their deaths. Some night visitors have reported seeing figures struggling in the water, their forms flickering like candlelight beneath the surface. Moments later, the same figures appear on the shore, standing silently and observing the living. Others describe hearing muffled cries and gasps, sounds that cannot be traced to any living person. These experiences suggest that the tragedies of the past continue to echo across the lake, tethering spirits to the water in a perpetual cycle of unrest. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to Mille Lacs for decades, attempting to capture evidence of its haunting. EMF spikes, sudden temperature drops, and anomalous recordings of voices and footsteps have been documented consistently. Night vision cameras sometimes catch fleeting figures on the water or along the shore, only for them to vanish when approached. While skeptics attribute these occurrences to natural phenomena such as fog, waves, or wildlife, the sheer volume and consistency of eyewitness accounts suggest that something unexplainable persists here, rooted in the history of the lake and the souls lost within it. Visitors who respect the lake's history and approach it with caution often report milder encounters, soft whispers, fleeting shadows, and an overarching feeling of being observed. Those who disregard the warnings or venture alone at night sometimes experience the more intense phenomena: sudden chills, apparitions on the water, and the sense of being pulled or watched by unseen forces. Mille Lacs seems to respond to intention and presence, rewarding caution and punishing recklessness with supernatural encounters that can be both terrifying and enlightening. Even in modern times, Mille Lacs Lake retains its aura of mystery. The combination of its natural beauty and haunted history makes it a location unlike any other. The stories of spectral canoes, vanished fishermen, and restless spirits continue to intrigue locals, paranormal enthusiasts, and adventurous visitors alike. The lake stands as a chilling reminder that beneath the serene surface lies a realm where the living and the dead brush against one another, and where history is never truly buried. For those who approach its waters at night, Mille Lacs is not merely a lake, it is a doorway into the past, a haunted expanse where the drowned never forget and the supernatural is always waiting just beyond the mist. Lake Minnetonka, already infamous for its haunted history, holds even deeper secrets that surface under the cloak of night. Beyond the tales of the woman in white and unseen hands tugging at unsuspecting boaters, locals whisper of ghostly fairies gliding silently across the water when the moon hangs low. These fairies, appearing in the dead of night, are said to carry passengers who vanished long ago, their faces frozen in expressions of fear or sorrow. Witnesses report seeing lanterns swinging in empty cabins, flickering erratically as though guided by invisible hands, casting long, eerie reflections across the rippling water. The phenomenon is most commonly observed along the older docks, where ferries once transported travelers between grand lakeside estates. At night, the water appears deceptively calm, yet the spectral vessels cut through it with no sound of engines or oars. Those who have seen the ferries often describe a thick fog rising from the lake, swallowing the lights from shore and leaving observers disoriented. Some daring fishermen who ventured into the water report that their compasses spin wildly, as though the ferries themselves disrupt the natural order of navigation, blurring the line between reality and the spectral world. Locals have long told stories of screams carried across the waves, usually heard when the wind blows from the north. The cries are sometimes soft, like the murmur of someone calling for help, and other times sharp and piercing, cutting through the still night air. It is said that these sounds originate from accidents that occurred on the lake decades ago, ferry collisions, and drownings during sudden storms, leaving souls trapped in the water. Some visitors report the sensation of being watched from the shore as these cries echo, a chilling reminder that the lake does not easily forget its dead. Boaters have recounted eerie experiences that defy explanation. In some cases, entire crews vanished from vessels without a trace, only to be reported later, standing silently on the shore, staring toward the water as if bound by some ancient duty. Objects on board, paddles, fishing gear, lanterns, sometimes move of their own accord, shifted by unseen hands. Passengers have spoken of feeling sudden gusts of cold air rolling over the deck, even during calm summer nights, accompanied by the faint odor of wet clothing or seaweed scents tied inexplicably to lives lost on the lake long ago. A common report involves the sighting of faint silhouettes within the ferries themselves. These figures, often dressed in early 20th century attire, move methodically through the cabins, adjusting ropes or glancing out the windows, yet vanish when approached. One night, A group of fishermen claimed to have seen an entire ferry slowly glide past them, filled with passengers frozen in mid-motion. Lanterns swayed gently, as if caught in a non-existent breeze, illuminating pale, almost translucent faces that stared outward, eyes wide with silent terror. As suddenly as it appeared, the ferry vanished into the fog, leaving only ripples on the surface and a lingering chill in the air. The lake's islands are also hotspots for supernatural activity. Those who camp overnight report hearing footsteps along paths where no one walks, or catching glimpses of shadowy figures crossing the tree line, moving toward the water. Some campers awake to find objects from their tents shifted or overturned, or chairs drawn back as if someone had been sitting there watching the lake. Others tell of faint, echoing voices, repeating fragments of conversations, laughter, or cries, seeming to originate from the forested edges rather than the water itself. Paranormal enthusiasts have attempted to document these occurrences for decades. Night vision cameras, audio recorders, and EMF detectors frequently capture inexplicable anomalies. Glowing orbs drift across the ferry's decks. Fleeting shadows dart across the water, and faint cries are often recorded on devices even when no one is present. While skeptics attribute these phenomena to fog, reflections, or imagination, the sheer consistency of eyewitness accounts suggests that something beyond the natural persists on Lake Minnetonka. The history of the lake deepens the eeriness. Early ferries were prone to accidents, from mechanical failures to sudden storms that claimed lives without warning. Before that, Native American lore spoke of spirits inhabiting the waters, protecting sacred grounds and punishing those who disrespected the lake. Over time, these legends merged with modern tragedies, creating a complex web of haunting that seems to intensify after sunset. Locals advise caution, claiming that nightfall is when the veil between the living and the dead is thinnest, and the ghosts of Minnetonka are most active. Despite the terror, some visitors are drawn to the lake precisely because of its haunted reputation. Nighttime tours, unofficial excursions, and midnight fishing trips have all become opportunities to witness the spectral phenomena firsthand. Most report a mix of fear and fascination, as the lake exudes a quiet, oppressive beauty. Its waters mirror the moon and stars, while hidden beneath, unseen spirits glide, whisper, and linger, replaying tragedies that never fully fade. Even today, the ferries of Lake Minnetonka remain a central figure in its haunting lore. Floating silently, occupied by the lost or guided by unseen hands, they serve as both a warning and a reminder. The lake's calm surface conceals sorrowful histories, restless souls, and mysteries that continue to challenge the living. Those who venture after dark often return, changed, carrying stories of lanterns swinging, cries echoing, and spectral figures gliding across the water, memories of a lake where the past refuses to stay buried. Lake Superior, the largest of the Great Lakes, is not only known for its immense size and breathtaking vistas, but also for its chilling tales of shipwrecks and ghostly apparitions. The waters along the North Shore have claimed countless lives over the centuries, and many believe that some of those lost at sea never truly left. Locals and visitors alike recount eerie experiences that suggest the spirits of drowned sailors and passengers still haunt the lake, their presence lingering long after storms have passed and waves have calmed. The North Shore, with its rocky cliffs and sudden fogs, is particularly notorious for paranormal activity. On misty nights, observers often report seeing phantom ships appearing through the haze. These vessels are sometimes eerily intact, while at other times they seem broken and fragmented, as though frozen in the moment of their demise. The ships glide silently across the water, their decks empty yet somehow vibrating with the memory of lost souls. Witnesses claim that lanterns flicker along the rails and cabins, glowing with a dim, otherworldly light. When approached, the ships vanish, leaving nothing but ripples across the water's surface and a cold, unnerving stillness in the air. Ghostly cries are a recurring phenomenon. From the shoreline, visitors sometimes hear desperate shouts, muffled wails, or the frantic calling of names. These sounds are reported both during storms and in otherwise calm weather, suggesting that the lake carries the memories of past tragedies regardless of the present conditions. Hikers along the cliffs speak of hearing the echoes of sailors struggling against the waves, the cries of the drowned blending with the roar of Lake Superior itself. Some claim that the wind carries these voices directly to the ears of unsuspecting observers, making it impossible to ignore the lake's spectral inhabitants. Spectral lights dancing on the waves are another common sighting. These lights often appear at night, hovering just above the surface of the water, or bobbing along in seemingly deliberate patterns. Witnesses report that the lights move independently of the wind or current, sometimes leading boats toward rocky outcrops or fading suddenly when approached. Some theorists believe these lights are the spirits of sailors trying to navigate home, forever trapped between the living world and the watery grave where they perished. Others warn that the lights serve as warnings, marking the locations of shipwrecks or underwater hazards, a spectral map etched by the lake itself. Boaters and fishermen who venture onto the lake after dark have reported a range of unnerving encounters. Instruments fail inexplicably, compasses spin, and engines sputter as though interfered with by unseen forces. Passengers often feel sudden chills or a presence at the bow of the boat, even when no one is there. Some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures standing on the water, silhouetted against the moonlight, watching silently before disappearing beneath the waves. In certain areas, the water seems unnaturally calm, and even gentle waves can carry the sensation of a hidden force moving beneath the boat, tugging or rocking it ever so slightly, like the lake itself is aware of intruders on its surface. The stories of Lake Superior's haunted history extend to the towns along the North Shore. Lighthouses, often perched on precarious cliffs, are said to be haunted by former keepers who perished during violent storms. Visitors have reported seeing figures pacing the lantern rooms, hearing the clink of keys or metal doors, and witnessing lanterns swing in rooms long abandoned. Many believe that these spirits are tied to the tragedies of the lake, unwilling to leave the locations where their duties or lives ended. Shipwrecks form a central part of the lake's spectral narrative. Over the centuries, hundreds of vessels have sunk in Lake Superior, victims of storms, collisions, and the lake's treacherous cold. Some divers and researchers have claimed to encounter unexplained phenomena when exploring wreck sites: distorted sounds, glimpses of figures moving among the sunken holes, and sudden drops in temperature that defy explanation. Some describe feeling as though the spirits of those lost linger on the wrecks, replaying their final moments in silent loops. The lake's vastness adds to the sense of isolation and vulnerability. Hikers and sailors alike report that, even in daylight, the waters can feel oppressive, carrying a palpable sense of history and loss. At night, the mist and darkness transform the lake into a stage for apparitions and ghostly phenomena, where even the faintest ripple might hide the shadow of a phantom vessel or the reflection of a spirit watching from below. Visitors often speak of leaving with a heightened awareness, feeling that the lake has imprinted its stories on them, a reminder of the lives lost and the mysteries that remain submerged. Despite its beauty, Lake Superior's haunted lore warns all who approach to respect its depths. The phantom ships, spectral lights, and cries of the drowned serve as constant reminders that the lake is not only a natural wonder, but also a resting place for souls caught between worlds. For those brave enough to venture onto its waters or walk along its shores at night, the experiences can be thrilling, terrifying, and unforgettable. Each sighting, each sound, and each chill in the air is a fragment of the lake's spectral history, a narrative that refuses to fade even in modern times. The North Shore's misty cliffs, the ghostly ships, and the haunting calls of sailors create an atmosphere where history and the supernatural intertwine. Lake Superior remains a place where the living and the dead brush against one another, a realm of silent witnesses and lingering spirits. Visitors leave with stories that echo long after they return to land, memories of a lake that holds not just water, but the weight of countless lost souls, and a haunting that stretches across the waves under moonlight. As our journey ends, remember that Minnesota's lakes are more than reflections of the sky. They are mirrors of the past, holding echoes of lives cut short and secrets that refuse to die. The next time you gaze upon these waters, know that something may be watching from beneath, waiting, whispering, haunting. Sleep carefully, for the spirits never truly rest.